Hello and welcome to this masterclass on Agile, in which I'll be covering a lot of topics for you. If you are preparing to crack an Agile interview or looking for a job as a Scrum Master in an Agile organization, even if you're in a senior role or looking to kind of understand what is Agile, and this masterclass is going to help you understand all about Agile. I'm going to cover topics from Agile Principles, Agile Values, Lean, Kanban, Scrum Values, all in detail in this masterclass. Grab a pen and paper, make notes. You'll see a lot of mnemonics over here. If you're preparing for PMP exam or PMI exam, you'll see a lot of mnemonics. So remember the 12 Agile Principles, 4 Agile Values, which is going to help you learn faster and expedite your learning. So let's see what do we have in this masterclass, and then let's get started. Okay, so the topics that I'll be covering, so first I'll be covering 12 Agile Principles. Each and every principle I'll be giving you an example from the IT industry so that you understand where is the principle applicable and start using it. And then for that, I'll give like 4 Agile Values and a mnemonic for that also. Even the 12 Agile Principles have a mnemonic for that. Followed by Lean Principles. Now, how is Lean different from Agile? How is it similar to Agile? You'll understand about that in the Lean Principles video. I'll be covering the Lean Principles, giving a mnemonic on that. Followed with the 7 Lean Waste in IT industry. So knowing this, you'll understand like where is it that you need to stop doing things and start doing new things. See what is the waste and eliminate that. Just by following that one video, you can do many changes in the organization and get a reward and recognition for yourself also. So explaining these concepts, knowing these concepts will help you crack many things in the interview. Then we'll follow with the extreme programming, the paired programming concept, the simplicity concept, the structured coding concept for complex IT projects. How is that different from the lean principles? So followed by Scrum framework, the world's most widely used framework called a Scrum framework. We'll talk about the Scrum values, Scrum pillars, Scrum ceremonies, Scrum artifacts, Scrum roles, and how a Scrum Master works with the product owner, how a Scrum Master works with the developers, how the Scrum Master works with the cross-functional team, and how he or she can be a servant leader. We'll cover that in detail. That is more than sufficient for you to kind of go and crack an interview for a Scrum Master role. So pay attention and learn many things over there. Followed with Scrum principles, what is Scrum principles, what is empirical way of working, explain that, and then Kanban. So the beauty of Kanban is that for the incremental delivery, the fast delivery, so I'll show you the entire flow of how work is done in Kanban, followed by an example of Kanban IT projects, and then I'll show you the differences and similarities of Scrum versus Kanban. Okay, so it's almost a long masterclass, lot of details. So hang on, you'll learn many things over here. And Scrum versus Kanban versus Lean versus XP, I'll give you an entire comparison so that you don't have any confusions left with yourself. Finally, I'll explain what is Agile versus Waterfall versus Hybrid, so that you know when is Agile used, when is Waterfall used, and when we'll use both Agile as well as Waterfall. And lastly, I'll give you one set of questions on the Agile mindset, which you can answer and then get ready for the exams. If you are all ready, then let's get started with the 12 Agile Principles.
The answer to the following 3 questions will help you remember the 12 Agile Principles for a long time, so that you can recall these principles in your certification examinations like PMP, PMI, CP, CSM, BSM, SAFE, and other Agile certifications. In this video, I'm going to simplify this process for you and help you retain these 12 principles. It's pretty long, right? How many of us know all the 12 principles, right? Not all of us. So the main goal of this video is to help you understand, to retain, remember the 12 Agile Principles. I will be giving you real-time examples from my experience in the software industry for the last 7 years as a software development project manager who's working with Agile Principles, managed 16 clients in 4 different geographies with 6 different types of contracts, and working in 3 different types of organizations like IT services, IT product company, and IT consulting. So I want to bring all this immense learning that I have in Agile and tell you what are the real-time challenges we face and how we can apply these principles with my experience in this video. Let's get started. So what are the 3 questions I'm going to ask you? So these 3 questions will help you retain the 12 Agile Principles. The first question, what is your body mass index? Your BMI. Remember, take a machine and press it in front of your head and find out what is your BMI, the body mass index. And you think, why is he asking us about a body mass index? How is this related to Agile? I'm going to tell you the association, the link, this mnemonic BMI with few Agile principles. Just ask social solution. It could be healthy, unhealthy BMI, but that's okay. If it's unhealthy, work upon yourself, right? What is your BMI? Remember this word. Let me ask you the second question. As a kid, I could throw a ball almost 50 meters. But as when I've grown old, almost it was like in my near close to my 40s. Now I can hardly throw like 35 to 40 meters. Right? Just wanted to ask this question. How far can you throw this ball? Right? As a kid, and how far can you throw it today? Again, are you thinking, why is he asking us to throw a ball? Again, I want to bring a link, association between this word throws, right, with few Agile principles. That's the mnemonic, right? So that this will help you remember the human brain works in associations. If you can associate few principles with a word, with a mnemonic, it will be easier for you to recall this in your examination and answer so many questions based on Agile principles and pass all the tough serving examinations and scale up in your career. Finally, the last question I'm going to ask you. Are you in the business of developing working softwares? Yes, finally, one question related to Agile. Yes, all of us are in the business of developing working software, right? So, DSW. So, I'm going to give you mnemonics and relations between all these words and the 12 Agile principles. Hang on in this video. Just follow me, okay? We'll get started with the 12 Agile principles one by one. In 2016, I gave my PMP certification. At that time, we didn't have Agile. But today's PMP examination in 2022 has 50% of Agile questions. In 2017, I passed my CSM certification. And in 2019, I passed my PMI SFT certification examination. I've also done my IC Agile certification in 2017. So why do I see this, right? So there was a learning process for me to understand the Agile values and principles of being Agile, right? All of us are in workplaces, we understand. We see Agile around us, but it is good to know these values and these principles and be Agile. Now, let me help you understand these 12 principles. I'll talk about a principle. I'll give an example from my career. We'll go one by one slowly. Bear with me for the next 10 to 15 minutes. And then I'll give you the mnemonics and the relations, how you can retain these Agile principles for a long, long time and work efficiently and pass your certification examinations. As I told you, once again, the goal of this video is to help you learn better, simplify your learning process, make it easy for you. So the first principle says, our highest priority is to satisfy the customer through early and continuous delivery of working software. The highest priority, right? So what could be the highest priority? Okay, so delivering working software early and continuously. Let me give an example. The first project is when we were developing a software for a telecom giant in Southeast Asia. So they wanted us to do this project in like 5 months. But the project is for 5 months. So what does early and continuous mean for them? Yes, at the end of 5 months, we're going to give them software. But what is early? So they told us, please give us 2 releases. After 3 months, give us 1 release. We want to see how it was in production. We give a feedback. And then again, after 2 months after that, give me 1 more release. So 3 months, at 2 months, 5 months, that's early. But still, how do we break it down? How do we get faster feedback? Agile is all about getting faster feedback, improving things, right? Continuous improvement. So then we had sprints. The sprints is like we are putting the code into from testing to UAT, QA, and then from QA to UAT, and the client is going and checking the code in UAT, right? For every sprint and giving us feedback. Okay, move this button here, move this flow here, and then after that they're coming and saying, okay, can you change the color, or can you put the more encryption over here, right? So these kind of things. So that's one way. When you're working in projects, right, greenfield projects, launch projects from scratch, you know about production the next day. Project has a duration start to end, but still, how do we do it? And in an iterative way. The sprints are the iterations. That's early and continuous. Customers satisfy every 2 weeks. We have a sprint of like 2 weeks. Okay. Second example. I was working in one of the product companies, wherein once a product is launched to the customer, it's gone in production. Every week there's a production release. If they're in bugs or CR, so every week we are kind of fixing things, getting the UIDs and all, reviewing, having the CSTD pipelines ready, having the builds ready, right? And then things are going into production every week. Fast, continuous, early, continuous. Early and continuous is equal to satisfied customer. So that's the first principle. Let me read it word to word for you, right? Our highest priority is to satisfy the customer through early and continuous delivery of valuable software, not documents. Software, valuable software, right? And valuable software is like something that customer can use, not in what's in UAT. Right? UAT is just giving feedback and having things in the manual already and not finding it for us. But then you use the iterations to get faster feedback. Let's put it the second principle, word to word. Welcome changing requirements, even late in the development. Agile process harnesses change for customers' competitive advantage. The principle says that we should welcome changing requirement even late in the process of development. Now, this is very, very subjective, right? It depends what kind of contract we have made with the customer, right? If it's an internal or external projects, right? How often can we accept? Like, for example, fixed price projects, we will put our foot down and we can't accept the change. But if we accept, then something has to go out, right? So understand this. Let me give you one more example. In the same project, that this was Southeast Asian organization or telecom giant, right? So we had like 60 stories to be delivered in 5 months. Towards the end, they came and they told, we need this 10 more stories to be developed. These are very important for us. You do, fine, we'll do it. But something has to be pushed out. Understand this. Agile cannot bend time and space. Right? Changing requirements will accept it, whatever, but something has to go out. We put our case in front of them, push out few things, same amount of work we've taken. That's called welcoming changing requirements. And the team has to have this mindset. Oh man, we just built it and now they're coming with some change. So usually how does business work? Towards the end, they get more clarity, not in the discovery phase, right? Once they start testing and seeing the software, no, change this, not this. I want an extra approval flow to be added. No, I want an extra checkbox to be added. I want an extra role to be configured. And so this is very key important. Okay, you want to welcome change in requirements. Like for example, I was working with one of the leading giant banking customer. So in the product that we made, they came in the towards the end and said, "Can you give us the bulk approval to be added? It will get not a part of the business requirement document." But it was this important. Towards the month end, it helps us, right? We can approve hundreds of approvals in single go. Where in use case, we brainstorm, we say, yes, we take it, something else goes. Okay, that's the second principle for you, right? Welcome changing requirements even late in the development. Agile process harness change for the customers are competitive advantage because they want to go fast to the market. Time to market, they want to shorten, reduce it, right? That's what the customer wants. Now let's go to the third principle. Deliver working software frequently. We are developing working software frequently from a couple of weeks to a couple of months with preference to the shorter time scale, not the longer. If you've got two projects, if you have two sprints, with a 4 week sprint and 2 week sprint, it's always good to go for 2 week sprints. You get faster feedback. That could be one of your interview questions also, right? You develop something within 2 weeks, you give it to the customer in the UAT environment, they go and test it. This is okay, this is good, this is not good, fix it within 2 weeks. You're not waiting for like 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. You get his feedback in 2 weeks, you're adjusting. Each sprint, you help adjust, tweak, you retrospect, you demo, you retrospect, you adjust, you tweak, and then you give something. You improve upon. Right? This is very, very important. Almost all agile projects, right? You could go to production every week for a product is already in production. Okay, when you're doing operations or the key business running or the BAU mode, business as usual mode, or the KPR mode, key business running mode, whatever is it, right? You could put weeks on into production, or if it's a project, you observe for every 2 weeks and give feedback, take feedback, improve. That's about delivering working software frequently from a couple of weeks to months, maybe month, 4 weeks, with preference to shorter duration. That's right. The fourth value, it says that business people and developers, both of them should work together daily throughout the project. Okay, so this principle is again connected back to the value individuals and interactions over processes and tools, not just putting some story in Jira and then leaving it over there, right? You want somebody to come and explain it. The business team knows the best what is it they need from this. right? The business team or the end user, right? So the developers should interact with them daily, every day of the project, and then we make a better software. Most of the time, what I've observed is that it is not a technical skill issue. They're very good developers, but still projects fail because they don't understand the requirement. But if the business people and the developers work together daily, we can build the software. That's the fourth principle. Let me give an example. So back in 2006, I was working on one of these services organizations in IT industry, wherein we had our team, we had the vendors, there was an IT team, the product company, and they had the business team. So there were issues that we weren't able to deliver to the mark of the IT team or the business team. Both are unhappy. Then finally, I decided, okay, let's take the team to the customer's premises and let the developer work with the business users. This worked out very well for us. Within 2 months, we have gotten all the noise, right? We actually stabilized the code and everybody was just commenting the way the work was being done. The escalations had come down, right? So when the business people and the developers work together daily, you make better softwares. That's the fourth principle of Agile. Okay. Let's go to the fifth one. Build projects around motivated individuals, people who are motivated to work. Give them the environment and support. What support can you give them, right? They need and ask them to get the job done. So many things, right? Motivated individuals, give them an environment, the support that they need, and so that and trust them to get the job done. It's not like we want self-organizing teams, right? Right? So we trust them, right? So everyone when you're going to kind of say micromanagement, or it's not like, right? Micromanagement is like having a CCTV in a place where you don't want people to see what you're doing. Right? Nobody likes micromanagement, right? So Agile says in this principle that build project on motivated individuals, people who own up things, who are self-organized, who show high accountability, right? And give them the environment and the support and trust them to get the job done. Right? You don't want to assign them tasks every day. You have a daily scrum, people come and see what's in the queue, they just pick it up. There's already just a story, the auto sprint, people come and see and they just pick it up. Right? Let me give an example. So one of the teams which I handled, right? I had like 7 to 8 senior developers and guys with 8 to 10 years of experience, right? These guys were so self-organized, right? I didn't even have to go to the daily scrums to see what they were doing. These guys used to walk among themselves. They used to handle the scrum. Every month there was a release. There were 19 releases in production in the days I was in the organization, and none of them had a leak in the production, a defect leak in the production, and that meant a lot, right? So I trusted them with the work. These guys were happy because of that. They were happy that I was not doing micromanagement, right? And I gave them due support also, right? We were just backing them the right amount of work. We had the correct capacity pack plan for the work to be done. The effort was never more than the capacity, right? So these things. So that's the fifth principle for you. We need to build project on motivated individuals. Okay, let's go to the sixth one. The sixth one says that the most efficient and effective method of conveying information. How do you compare information, right? The most efficient, effective method of conveying information to and within a development team is face-to-face communication. You all know, right, how much easy it is when you have a person in front of you and talking to him. You understand the way this person is grasping the information. Right? Is he rejecting you? Is he accepting you? Yeah, right? And it's easy. Like, for example, 5 or 10 people sit and just work together in a place. And two people having a conversation. Third person gets to know something about the project which is not aware. That's called osmotic communication. Right? Like, for example, in one of the organizations where I worked, okay, the daily scrums were amazing because literally we had to just stand in front of a pillar that had the scrum board 10 o'clock to 10:50 every day. Just see the pillar with the stories listed out for the owners and just keep moving things from right to left. We're just talking about, okay, what happened, what is the issue, what is the dependency, right? So that was the best way of conveying information. Yes, we had Jira software separately, but still we preferred these boards because people are standing in front of each other. And then COVID happened. People were remote. Now again, people are coming back and working organizers, right? Though the best part I feel about the way of working and sharing information is face-to-face communication. That's the principle of Agile. The sixth principle of Agile. Okay, so that's just as simple as that. Okay, best way of conveying information is through having face-to-face communication. Have boards, stand for them, talk to people, right? Having boards is like the practice you're doing. So face-to-face conversation is the principle. Okay, that's important. The seventh principle, it says that working software is the primary measure of success. Working software is a primary measure of success. What do you mean by that? It's something that's useful by the customer, right? It's not about just something in UAT, something that it's in production, right? We have to get things useful to the customer. Yes, you're having iterations, you're getting feedback, you're improving the product, but still the customer's not used it. So the working software is a primary measure of success, right? I give an example earlier in all of the videos, right? So, with the mobile phone, so it has to be useful. If you have a phone, if you can't make calls, then what's the point of having it, right? So working software is the primary measure of success. You with all the clients I've worked, the last 16 clients I've worked, right, in the last 7 years, all of them is just something. So like, you give me something that works. Something that works is what I'm asking you for, right? That's very important. Imagine you have great functional flows and the non-functional requirements are not working. There's a performance issue. The moment 1,000 users are using the app, it goes down. The point. Your non-functional requirements are also important, right? So working software is the primary measure of success. Okay, like for example, one of the times, one of the clients we are working with, our product had some login issues. It was taking almost like 10 to 15 seconds for us to log into the product, right? And people not liking it. Then we improve the performance. We got it like 300 milliseconds, right? So that's important. Anything that's useful. Like for example, we give somebody an option to select bulk approval, okay? And if we don't give them the filters to segregate things, right? Then what's the point of it? You have to think with the user's perspective. Many things come into this, right? How the user is going to use this. So working software is a primary measure of success. Okay, that's the seventh principle. Let's go to the eighth one. It says, Agile processes promote sustainable development. Agile processes promote sustainable development. The sponsor, developers, and users should be able to maintain a constant pace. The sponsor, developer, and the users should be able to maintain a constant pace indefinitely, right? For example, in one of the companies working, the project was almost for like 2.5 years. It was a banking client, right? I was in a project for almost year and 4 months. And we had like 52 sprints and then again 8 sprints, like somewhere around 60 sprints. Each sprint, the velocity was like 45 to 47. Right? That was our velocity, constant velocity. Right? That was a very long project, but then we delivered the project in an agile manner. We were kind of putting things on vanilla environment, testing it, getting the users to come and test it before we gonna launch it. It was a banking application. People were to launch it just like that. They wanted to thorough UAT, a thorough regression, but they wanted to maintain to agile. They want to work through agile way of development. Use the agile methodology called Scrum, and there is project get frequent feedbacks. Right? So that's important. So sustainable development is important. It's not like you put 10 people when there is like firefighting, right? Most times, most of the startups we see this problem, like you don't have many people, then suddenly you put everybody else in the project and then you do it, right? That's not sustainable. You can't keep on boiling the midnight oil every week or every day. Once you buy here and there, sometimes peaks are okay, but not everyday peaks. Right? Peaks and valleys, okay. We know IT sometimes there'll be peaks, but not everyday peaks, right? Peaks and valleys are fine, but sometimes, but it should be sustainable. Even peaks are also, Agile says, don't go to the peaks of putting efforts always, right? That's important. Okay. So sustainable development, uh, constant pace. That's the Agile principle over here. That's the eighth one. Ninth one, continuous attention to technical excellence. Okay, we get technical excellence and good design enhances agility. From the time you start building the code, you should think like, what's the best way of writing the code? How is it going to help us kind of scale up? How is it going to integrate with different APIs, right? The different systems. Okay, all this has to be thought through. Like for example, I give an example. I was once working in a consulting organization, and we were working on a POC for kind of merging multiple PDFs together. Okay. So this was amazing, right? Because we had to build the front end, we had to have the back end. You know, what we used to do, or like we build the entire code on like static data, we had dynamic data, we had to pull data from different documents. then stitch them, merge them, and stitch them, then you final document to the end user. Right? So the POC was like for 7 weeks, but it was great fun because like we had thought through the entire design, and we used to demo them every day in the evening. Every day demo, imagine. Every day they come and see the UI is changing like this, dynamic data is something like this way, and they're just happy. Like, wow, this is great. This is like how's that you can make it so easy? Right? Because we just talked through it for the POC how best this can be done, and we delivered it. That's the importance, right? So give importance to this technical excellence, and then your demo is also going to be very good. You think of the user personalities are going to be very useful. See, as fast as you can demo, I'm talking about a demo every day, not even 2 weeks. Right? We have done that also. Okay, great. And customer never asked for a demo every day. We just gave it to them. Okay, because we were confident that it's gonna keep them happy, and we want to win the way larger project with the POC. Okay, that's it. That's the right principle. 10th one. Simplicity, the art of maximizing the amount of work not done. Right? We're just going to do what is essential. Most of the time, product development people think of just features. No, product development is not just building features, it is solving problems. You need to solve the problem of the user. That is important. Like, for example, in all the organization work, we can give them extra features of adding users or adding these or adding data. Someone will never ask this for you. Why are you giving it to me? That's extra feature. That's like gold plating. I don't want gold plating, right? So just keep it simple. What is what's important for the customer? Give that. That's the 10th principle. 11th one. The best architectures, requirements, and design emerge from self-organizing team. Guys who are like together, right? Self-organizing team who collaborate more, and you just pick up the work and start doing. They don't even need a project manager or scrum master to tell them pick this and do it. That's the agile. The end goal of agile is what? The two end goals of agile. One is collaboration, one is self-organizing team. If these two things are there, and then you just move on to another Scrum team and start working with them. So I had this benefit of working with such a team in one of the services organizations. I just mentioned the example earlier. 7 to 8 developers, all more than 7 to 8, 10 years of experience, excellent self-organization, excellent output. I didn't have to worry much. I have to kind of play the role of agile coach, stand as Scrum Master, right? I didn't have to get involved in day-to-day work. They just kept me at the wheel. Like, you don't need to involve. We'll take care of things. That's the end goal of agile, having more self-organizing teams, right? Finally, the last principles, it says at regular intervals, the team reflects on how to become more effective. How can they become more effective? Then tunes and adjust. Okay, if this is not fine, let's fix this. Let's do this. Okay, just behavior accordingly. What is this? These are the retrospectives that happen after the sprint demos within the team. What went well? What can we improve? What are the action items? Right? So these are the questions that people are asking. So at a regular interval, after every sprint, there is a system. See, Agile, see, the sprint ceremonies give a system, give you an great output. Systems give you the desired goals, right? So the sprint ceremonies is the part of the system that gives you the end goal that you want. It becomes a habit. Okay, so those are the 12 principles with you. Take a short break for a second or two, and now tell you how will you remember these 12 principles, these 12 long principles. In the exam, you're not tested for like word to word of these principles, neither the sequence of these principles. So now let's get back. Let's use our brain, the mnemonics I gave to you, association, your brain and the association. Right? Let's kind of start mapping that so that you remember these things. Okay. So the first one, what is the first question I asked you? What is your BMI, your BMI index, right? Your body mass index. So this question is, so what are the 3 principles that fall under this, under the BMI? Okay. The first one, it says B stands for business people and developers must work together daily. That's the BM. B stands for business people and developers must work together daily. The next M. M stands for projects are built around motivated individuals. M stands for the motivated individuals, right? Give them environment, support, and positively get the work done. That's the principle. BMI. I is talking about the information sharing. What's the best way of information sharing? Face-to-face communication, right? Just face-to-face. That's the best way of coming in. Those are the 3 principles. BMI, business people and developers work together daily. M stands for motivated individuals. Projects are built on them. I stand information sharing is face-to-face communication. So hope you remember that. BMI stands for these principles. Next, we spoke about the ball. Remember this ball? We spoke about this. Throw. Throw is the word. Throws. So what are the principles coming under the throws? So T stands for continuous attention to technical excellence, right? How are we kind of improving the product, right? How, when you're writing the code, what is the best way of having the best code written? Technical excellence. So thinking about that. The code restructuring, the way it has been written, right? All that's important. Okay, that's the excellence. T stands for that. H. H stands for our highest priority is to give the customer software early and continuous delivery. That's the H. The HR. R stands for at regular intervals, we retrospect. R is for that, right? We kind of review and adjust things. That's the principle of that, right? The HR. O. O stands for projects are built around self-organized teams. O is for that. Okay. Organized, organized by themselves, right? They go pick up tasks and they do it by themselves. They don't have to be assigned. Agile is all about self-organization, right? So the O stands for organized self-organization. Remember that. THROW. W is for Agile says we welcome change in requirements even late in the development. We welcome change in requirements. W stands for that. We welcome change in requirements even late in the development process. And then S stands for Agile process promotes sustainable development, right? At a constant pace. The velocity is constant. So that's the principle. Those are the 6 principles with the so THROWS. T stands for technical excellence, H for highest priority, R for regular intervals you're retrospecting, O for organized self-organized teams, W for welcome change in requirement, and S for sustainable pace. See, it's so simple. And lastly, I asked you the question, are you in the business of developing working software? DSW. So the principle with DSW for D is the goal of Agile is that developing working softwares. That's the primary measure of success, right? Right? So first is developing working software. That's the first principle. With the W is working software is the primary measure of success. Okay. So working software is the primary measure of success. D, W, S. S is simplicity, the art of maximizing the work not done. So these are the 12 principles which you can easily recollect and remember. Okay, now let me just do a fast recollect on the video so that you believe you can also do it. So BMI, business people and developers work together daily. M stands for projects that belong motivated individuals. I stands for information sharing is best done through face-to-face communication. Throws. T stands for technical excellence in the design. H stands for highest priorities developing working software frequently, right? THR. R stands for at regular intervals, we are kind of adjusting and tuning things, retrospectives. O stands for organized. Projects are built on self-organized people, right? Right? Self-organized team will give you more output. THROW. W is like welcoming changing requirements even late in the development. ROW. S is for working at a sustainable pace, right? That's the thing. So the last one is DSW. This developing working software for DW. W is for working software is a primary measure of success. And last is S. S is the simplicity, the art of maximum over not done. So these were the 12 agile principles I wanted you to understand. Watch this video a couple of times. I'm very sure you'll be able to recollect this, remember it easily, and answer most of the questions on based on agile principle, agile mindset, be it in PMP exam or PMI exam, CSM exam, PSM exam, SAFE exam, any of these exams. And then if you remember these values in your day-to-day work, you will be able to apply them in your work and make the environment more agile. And that's where the efficiency increases. That's it from my side. This is Arham Faraaz. Thank you for watching my video. I wish you all the success. Let me know what next video do you want to watch, what mnemonics do you want, what concept you want me to simplify and give you the video on that. Thank you for watching once again. Bye-bye. Do you want to remember the 4 agile values in less than 4 minutes and never forget them? Then in this video, I'm going to record that and tell you how to remember the 4 agile values using 1. Mnemonics. 2. Flashcards. 3. Mind maps. In less than 4 minutes, I'm going to show you how to do this, and then you will remember these values for a long time and be able to answer questions in your certification examinations as well as work efficiently in your work environment. Let's get started. Let's start with the mnemonics. So you see here IWCCRR. So this is related to 4 agile values. What is the first agile value? The first agile value says individuals and interactions over processes and tools. We value individual interactions over processes and tools. The second value says that working software that works, is valued more over comprehensive documentation. Lot of documentation that's not of no use, right? But working software is valued more. The third one, customer collaboration, right? Working with the customer closely over contracts and negotiation. This is the third value. The fourth value is responding to change over following a plan. So these are the 4 values we have. Now, how do we remember these values, right? So take a paper or a card and just write down these 5 letters, IWCCR. So what is the mnemonic? The sequence of the mnemonic, right? It's difficult to remember this IWCCR. So I'll give you a sequence for that. That is, I stands for India, W stands for wins, C stands for Cricket Cup, and R stands for Rawalpindi in Pakistan. So India wins Cricket Cup in Rawalpindi. So these correspond to some values. So how do you use a flashcard? You put the question in front and the answer at the back. That's how you use a flashcard. So when you open and try to read this, and try to recollect the answer, what does I stand for? Individuals and interactions over. If you forget, no problem. Just turn back the flashcard and see individuals and interactions over process and tools. That's how your brain works. It goes and fetches for information. If information is not there, it still triggers a neural transmitter, right? So there is a connection that happens in your brain, and then it goes and makes the connection, okay, process and tools. Do this for 3-4 times a day. You just need to spend like 15 seconds on a card on this in IWCCR 3-4 times a day, and within a couple of days you'll remember all the 4 values. Let's say, for example, you're trying to recollect and see CC. What is CC is, okay? Is it customer collaboration or something else? No problem. Let's turn the card and see the answer. So the more you turn the card and see the answer, is going to help you. That's the first thing, right? So that's the mnemonic and the flashcard use. Next thing is, I want you to understand how to use your brain effectively by using mind maps. Mind maps help to use both the right side and the left side of your brain. Right is the creative, left is the logical brain. So creative talks about images, left talks about the words, numbers, and all those things, right? So mind maps help you remember this. I have created a mind map for all the 4 values, for individual interactions, then for processes and tools, then for working software or comprehensive documentation. Then there's one more slide on customer collaboration over contracts and negotiation, and there's one more slide on, lastly, responding to change or following a plan. So all the slides are in front of you. In the summary, I've put a last page on the mind map also. It is there on the screen. So just take a paper and just make this mind map for yourself. You'll remember this. So these were the 3 tips of using mnemonics, flashcards, and mind maps to remember our 4 agile values. Thank you for watching my video. Bye-bye. Hi. In this video, I'm going to share you what is lean, how this is different from other agile methodologies, and we will learn what are the 7 principles of lean thinking. I will also share a mind map, a flashcard, and a mnemonic on how to remember the 7 lean principles. Let's get started. So what is lean? Lean was a way of manufacturing started by Toyota to manufacture and produce cars in mass production to beat the competition of Ford in early 90s. Now, this is a manufacturing methodology which is now adopted for software development. So this is a thinking. Lean is a thinking. It is not a methodology. Understand this. Lean is a thinking we have. There are 7 principles for lean thinking, which we will learn in this video. It is different from other agile methodologies like Scrum, Kanban, or XP. These are ways of being agile whereas lean is a mindset. In lean, we don't have roles like PO, product owner, or scrum masters, but we have some principles which are even adopted by Agile from lean. Let's get started. So there are 7 principles in lean. I have prepared a flashcard and a mnemonic. Okay, so it's like the mnemonic is bed sort. We'll go one by one with all these 7 principles. Just remember this word as if you're sawing a bed. Okay, remember that. We'll talk about that. So the first thing, so lean thinking says that well, the first principle is quality is built in. Okay? B stands for built in quality. Now, when we are doing software development, we take care of this by using methodologies like test driven development, having the acceptance criteria ready, or having definition of ready in place, or having definition of done. So, this is the built in quality that lean talks about. The second thing, E. E stands for empowering the team. So, in lean thinking, team is empowered to take decisions wherever they think it is apt and helps the process or the product. Being trusted with a lot of things. We talk about self-organizing teams. So lean teams, people start owning up the work. So that's what is called as empowering the team. EED. D stands for deferring decisions. In lean, we take decisions in the last moment. Once we have a lot of data and information, then we take decisions. Like for example, in one of the projects that I was working on, we were deciding whether we have to duplicate the same thing that we did for MVP 1 for MVP 2 also. But we could take this decision only after we completed MVP 1, okay, and have the data with us, and then we took a decision, okay, fine, we are gonna change this. S stands for see the whole. So we talk about mnemonic bed sort. Now, S stands for see the whole. So in lean thinking, we want to see the entire end-to-end part of the project, right? We want to have a story map in front of us that gives the entire visual of the project. Okay, this part is going in this time. This is where this. So these user personas are taken care. So S stands for seeing the whole system, not just one story, right? So in lean thinking, S is for seeing the whole of the project or the particular product that we're building, how the user is going to use this. So that's about S. A is amplifying the learning. So what are the lessons learned? We most of the time after sprints we have retrospectives and we gather the lessons learned. So this learning of these lessons is very, very important. So amplifying the learning is very important. W is to eliminate waste. Lean is very, very tough on eliminating waste. So lean thinking means we are not doing any waste things. I've also recorded a video on 7 lean waste. You can find the link over here and watch it. Okay, so we want to eliminate waste, extra processes, extra features, then motion, task switching, right? And then partially done work, and then after that defects, and then after that you've got waste things that you're doing. Okay, so waiting is one more thing. So all these things are not liked by lean. So we want to eliminate waste. That is one of the principles. And then finally we have got deliver fast. D, but SAWED, but short is like deliver fast. We want to deliver fast. Okay, so it's like how soon can we give value to the customer, right? So that's the thinking we have with lean. So these were the 7 principles on lean mindset. Okay, again I'm reiterating, it is not a methodology, it is a mindset, a way of thinking. So what I want to do is you take a piece of paper and just write down these 7 words, bed sort. So each letter this corresponds to one of the lean principles. So the idea of flashcards is to write the letter mnemonic in front, okay, and then the answer at the back. So explanations at the back. You will not write the answer and both the question in the same side. The brain needs to go and retrieve the information. So research says that retrieval helps in longer retention. Okay, so this is the mnemonic you have bed sort. Okay, so it's like built-in quality, empowering team, different decisions, and seeing the whole, amplifying the learning, and then eliminating waste. W is for waste, and D is for delivering fast. Okay, so these are the 7 lean principles. On your screen, you'll also see a mind map. So you can draw that mind map and kind of make a note of it. It will help you expediting your learning. So that's about this video on the 7 lean principles. Please do subscribe to my channel. If you like the video, kindly like it, share it, and comment. Thank you for watching my video. This is Arham Faraaz. Bye bye. Do you want to know the 7 lean ways? Do you want examples from IT industry on the 7 lean ways? Do you want to remember these 7 lean ways using mnemonics, flashcards, and mind maps? If so, watch this video. In the next 7 minutes, I'm going to share you all of this. Let's get started. I need you to meet the following 3 images. The first one is a partially built house. The second one is a car in its prototype, just like a skeleton. There's nothing on it. And the third one is a bridge that's incompleted. Now, let me ask you a question. Will you be willing to buy that car and you can start using it right away? No. Will you be willing to pay the money for the house and go and live in it right away? No. And that bridge, nobody's going to drive on that bridge because it's partially done work. So all these 3 images have one thing in common, and that's partially done work. So I need you to meet partially done work. This mnemonic is here on the flashcard. Okay, I need you to meet this partially done work. Okay, this 7 letters, sorry, is gonna tell you about the 7 lean ways. Let's get started one by one. Okay, the first one is M. Okay, M stands for motion. How many times we know that handing off things, waiting for somebody else to complete and for us to start the work, it's going to consume so much of time, it's just wasting, right? So handoff of the work, it's going to cost a lot of time and we're going to lose time. That is one of the lean waste. Top down approvals coming, by the time it comes to, it's almost half a day is over. That's time and motion is wasted. E. E stands for extra processes. How many of us can relate to this in IT industry? The extra documents that we do, the extra approvals that we wait for, right? Like I remember once in one of the organizations I was working, we had a SharePoint website and that had like 25 extra fields, which simply people were filling for no reason. I just had to go and remove all the 25 fields, whether they even gave me a spot award, right? So this extra processes is going to consume your time. That's not needed. Just what is needed is required. Extra processes is also a lean waste. The next one, extra features. Extra features is like you're giving the customer what they didn't ask for. Like I remember giving for one of our customers an extra add button on the ribbon, though we had to give separate add button over here because that was a product feature. Customer came and if you give me this over here, we need to test for 2 more days extra because we never asked for this. We need to see what's the output of this button from over here. They came back, don't give me this update button like 3 different places, just one place is enough. So extra features is not required. See, software development is not giving you just features, it's like solving problems. If one or two things can solve the problem from your customer, that's enough. So extra features is the third language. The fourth one is task switching. T. All of us can relate to it, right? I'm working on multiple projects, project A, project B, project C. Oh my god, I remember developers like on 2 3 projects. It's not going to help them. Scrum masters on 3 4 projects, not going to help them, right? So there was a research done, and in his book, Gerald M. Greenberg has brought this data and facts in front of you. It will be in front of your screen. Let me read it out to you, number by number. So he says, number of projects simultaneously if you work upon. If you work on one project, 100% of the times available in that project, loss to context switching is 0%. That is good. Now, what happens when there are 2 projects? So you can do only 40% for each project. Loss to context switching is 20%. If you're working on 3 projects simultaneously, so you can do only 20% each project, and the loss of your time on the context switching is 40%. So on and so forth. See, so much of time is wasted. So multitasking doesn't help, right? So you have to avoid more context switching. Task switching has to be avoided. Getting it? So that was the fourth lean base. The fifth one is the partially done work. Partially done work, nobody is going to accept it, right? Things are done in dev, not going to QA. Development is done, QA is not done, QA is done, UAT is not done, UAT is done, production checks not done, right? Right? Code review is not done. So all these are partially done work. The final work is the thing that customer gets. Okay, partially done work is also a lean waste. Half requirement is that's a bigger waste. Partially done work. So D is for defects. We all know defects are like time consuming, and none of us are gonna like defects, right? We want to fix it in the first time itself. So defects is also one of the lean waste. Last one, partially done work. W is waiting. Just waiting for approvals, waiting for reviews is going to wait a lot of time. Waiting for the onshore folks to come or the offshore folks to come. It's going to That's also lean waste. So these were the 7 lean waste. Now I want you to remember this using flashcards. What I want to do is you have to just write down this 7 letters on 2 flashcards or 2 papers. Meet P D W, and behind this you write on the uh, lean waste. So every time, how the flashcards work, how the memory works, right? The working memory is the prefrontal cortex and the storage room is the hippocampus, right? So for things to go from here to here, you have to test your brain. So how do you test your brain? By just writing the letter M over here on the flashcard in front. Answer is not over here. Answer is behind. When the answer is behind, the brain fetches. It is testing. Every time it retrieves information, it remembers for a longer time. That's how flashcard works. So M is for what? M is for motion or madness. No, it's not madness, it's motion. So just turn the card and see its motion, right? So do this turning of card 3-4 times a day. It will just take you like 15 to 20 seconds per flashcard. 3-4 times a day. Within a couple of days, you remember all the mnemonics, all the 7 lean ways, right? So meet PDW is a mnemonic. Again, I'm giving this because meet partially done work. I want you to remember this 7 lean ways as one memory chunk. My idea over here is to just make the learning simple. All of us are like in the mid 30s or early 40s or late 30s, so we need to absorb information faster, right? So mind maps, so this flashcards help. Finally, I'm also giving you the mind map over here with the keywords and the images. So using both the right side and the left side of the brain, you'll be able to understand this 7 lean ways faster. You can make one of the mind map, draw it on paper, and remember it. I now want to give you an example from IT industry wherein one bad decision resulted in almost like 5 to 6 lean waste on the project. So what happened was the customer insisted for us to use their Jira software, wherein we also had a Jira software, and our entire deployment process was based on this. Now they told, no, you have to go and update our Jira also. Now that's the first extra lean waste, right? Extra process, doing same update in 2 places. Then next what happened was this information had to be moved from their system to our system. So again, the lean waste of motion, right? Stories are created there. These stories have to be moved from there to our Jira. Again, there's a motion, there's waste. Then until unless the stories are not updated in our Jira, right? There we are facing waiting issues. Again, the lean waste on waiting. So that's the third waste. Then after task switching, one person dedicatedly has to go and update this Jira here and then that Jira over there. That's like insane. My team was going mad. It's like, who even approved this? Working on 2 Jiras, right? Okay, so that's the task switching is the fourth lean waste. And then the fifth one we had was on extra effort. Imagine we had to hire an extra dedicated person to go and update this Jira and that Jira to get things in sync. Now, there are almost like 5 lean wastes. The overall delivery was delayed because one, there were sync issues. The 2 Jiras could never be in sync, right? Then after that, lot of delays. They're waiting for updates over there, from there to come to here, all because they wanted to have MIS reporting in their Jira, and we want to have a DevOps process for an our Jira. And I told them, give you the access to our system. We have been doing for almost many customers, but no one listened. Okay, so extra resource, delays, extra cost of having an extra resource. Then after the overall delivery delay, task switching, right? Sync issues. So then missing deadlines. So I would humbly request you guys to avoid such kind of lean waste in your day-to-day work in your offices. Please do drop a comment and let me know what kind of lean waste are you currently working on your organization and how do you plan to change it. Okay, so you just have to just go and voice it out. Fine, that's it with this video. Hello, extreme programming. What is extreme programming? In this video, I'm going to talk to you about this amazing methodology of Agile to address the way we code software, the way we build software. The main focus of XP is to build software in such a way that it is easy for us to add new things into software once it becomes more and more complex. It addresses the issues of reusability and the challenge that we face with using the same code. It talks about how we can be agile by working on small units of code. In this video, we'll learn about what is XP, the details of XP methodology, how it is different from Scrum and how it is more similar to Scrum, what are the similarities. We'll also see how XP teams work. Towards the end of this video, I am putting a mind map for you to understand what is XP. Okay, so it summarizes everything about XP in that particular original slide. So stay on, watch this video. It will help you understand a lot about XP frameworks and you can start using this particular methodology on your projects. Let's get started. So what is the primary focus of XP? The primary focus of XP is programming in a nice way. It is about writing code in such a way that it can be again and again expanded and new models could be added easily and can be scaled. The code can be scaled. The issues can be addressed. There are many things like it addresses the technical depth on the particular software, right? So the primary focus, if anyone is asking, of XP is programming in a nice way. The primary focus of Scrum was to deliver projects. The primary focus of Kanban was to manage processes once everything goes to production. So XP's focus is programming. So how do XP teams work? Let's try to understand this. So let's see these people who have to put more focus on working the code. So there should be some difference at least in the way they're working, some their behaviors, right? So let's see what are these things. First and foremost thing, XP says the teams need to be co-located. People need to sit next to each other and work. So that this co-location helps a lot for them in having some clarifications done, in seeking guidance, in osmotic communications, right? When people talk something important, though you're not part of the discussion, you get to know more things about the project, right? So having the teams co-located is very important. Yeah, we had the pandemic, we had people working remotely, we had virtual meetings, yes, but still it is better to work together. This also goes back to one of the Agile principles in which it says information sharing is done best with face-to-face communication. So first thing is XP teams need to be seated co-located and then work together. Like I was having a particular team when working in services organization as a project manager. Over there I have got like 7 or 8 developers and we are working on a big data project. So all of them used to sit together and work, and it was so easy for me to take care of things and address the issues, solve the problems, because the co-location helped us a lot. Back then, work from home option was not an option, right? But people used to come work together. It actually helped us in improving the productivity. Also, later on in COVID, we went remote. We had to come on Zoom meeting and work. Yes, that also helped us, but nothing like working next to your teammate and understanding how to do things faster. Because XP talks about a very important concept called paired programming. We'll look into that a little later. For that, people need to be seated together when they're working to get faster feedback. Let's move forward. So next thing XP says that now that you're sitting co-located, okay, we're not going to spoon feed or like do some babysitting with you. We expect you to be self-organized. We expect the XP teams to be self-organized, pick up the work and then do it. They're not going to sit and wait, okay, you come and you assign me some work, then I will do it. No, it's not like that. Okay, XP teams are assumed to be self-organized. That's the goal, right? The goal of Agile is also what? I've been repeating all the videos, right? Become self-organized and greater collaboration. So we expect people to pick up work and then start doing this in XP. So co-location, self-organizing, there are things on the XP board or the task board we have. People go see there. Once the task is completed, they pick up the next task and then they go. Okay, XP teams will have an energized work environment. So what do you mean by this, having an energized work environment? An energized work environment is wherein the amount of work that we can do is done at a sustainable pace, right?
It is not like you're working for 60 hours, 70 hours every week. That is not sustainable, right? When something's sustainable, you're working for like 40 hours a week. And then so yes, there will be sometimes peak when there's a launch or something. There are escalations. Okay, one day you stretch a bit, 2 days, but not like every week you're doing like 55 to 60 hours of work. That is gonna burn down the development team or the testing team everywhere, right? I've seen many organizations make this mistakes. Usually, some of these startups also make these mistakes that by stretching the people, it doesn't help. It is not a sustainable way of working. That is not an environment that is like quite excited or energized. People are there. People get tired. People get fatigued. Most of us have gone through this, right? So XP says we will work humanly, we will work in a sustainable pace. Again, going back to one of the Agile principles that says that we have to code in a sustainable way, and even the sponsors, the developers, the customers, everybody need to be involved, and that's the Agile thinking, Agile mindset we have. XP teams need to have an excited work environment, and the most important thing for that is, first thing is the sustainable pace, and then comes collaboration, and then other things. But this is very important to have a sustainable pace. XP teams need to be more cohesive. What do we understand this? XP teams need to be more cohesive. So by being more cohesive, it means that we have to have greater bonding between the teammates, because both these people are going to do something called as pair programming. Four eyes sitting and looking on a piece of code and giving feedback to each other, and okay, this needs to be fixed, this needs to come here. Okay, probably we are pushing the data in the wrong way, probably we're calling wrong call, right? So probably use different API, or like move this structure over here, move this code over there, right? We have to sit, two people are sitting seeing the same piece of code, so they have to be having more cohesiveness. Imagine two people have fought and are asking them for, okay, you have done your piece, move, I'll do my piece. No, that doesn't work out. I can't work with this person. No, the first thing that the coach should be doing is to enforce collaboration among these people, right? Next, let's go ahead. Okay, XP teams need to communicate well. We already spoke this. One of the values in XP is communication. People have to talk a lot because they have to have the collaboration. They have to give feedback. XP takes a faster feedback. The fastest feedback that we can get is through XP, and that happens in seconds, like this. And that is happening through pair programming. Nowhere else we get this faster feedback within seconds, right? So XP helps us with fast. So people have to communicate. Pair programs to people talking on a piece of code, giving feedback to each other, right? So next, XP teams need to plan better. So what XP teams do is they take a piece of a goal, like a theme. They call it as theme in XPs, a quarterly goal for 12 weeks, and then they will have small weekly goals. So they need to plan better. Okay, because you're going to write the code in such a way so that it's going to be helpful for future. So XP teams do planning for a quarter, and they deliver or demo every week. Next point, XP teams seek more feedback. They get faster feedback. They get feedback from pair programming. They get feedback from the builds which they do. They get feedback when they merge the codes into the CI/CD pipeline. When they resolve conflict, they get feedback through unit testing. Lot of ways of getting feedback, not only from the user when it's coming to the demo. The XP teams get feedback from the automated systems, from the automation, they get a lot of feedback. So many ways people get feedback, and it is going back to the imperative process: inspect, adapt, and then transparency. So people inspect, they get feedback, they adapt the feedback, and then they're going to do it better. Going back to the agile mindset of empirical process, wherein things become emergent with way, we learn from our own mistakes, right? So this feedback helps a lot. So XP teams seek a lot of feedback. So last thing on XP, as I told you, to summarize all of this, why are we doing all of this? So that we ensure that we do the great behavior of pair programming. We do pair programming, we get faster feedback, and then we build better softwares. Okay, so like there was one of the project I was working in an organization wherein like there was a very complex piece of code. At that time, we applied XP's pair programming. We put two people on the same piece of code, and then we kind of refined the code. We refactored the code. We removed the insecurities. We removed the technical debt. We also restructured the code, right? We also ensured the performance was great. We did all of this, and people started working together on one piece of code, right? In pairs of twos. So all that helps. So XP programming is successful because we do, the focus is on improving the way we program, the way we code, and that's called as pair programming. Next, now coming to the values of XP. XP has got five values. XP has got 5 values. So what are these 5 values? Let's try to understand these in detail. The first value that XP talks about is simplicity. Simplicity is like when you're coding, right? You just code what is needed. You will not add extra features. You will not build anything until the last minute, until unless the need comes in. It also goes back to the Agile principle, says that simplicity is the art of maximizing the work not done. You will not give unnecessary features to the customer. You will not do gold plating. So the first value XP says is, we will work what is needed. If this first thing is needed, we'll just work on the first simple thing, right? Then we'll give you more enhancements. Okay. When you come and ask us, until unless the customer doesn't ask us, we're not going to do that. Until unless there's no need for the user or the product for that particular feature, we're not going to build it. Next thing is make complex code into smaller pieces. XP says simplicity talks about how to make code simple. Next thing is on the way we code also, right? We take complex piece of code, we make it into smaller units, and each unit is doing a particular task. So that tomorrow I have to go and scale the code. I don't have to have the issue of getting into complex code of reusing the same thing. Usually developers have the habit of reusing the same code. But if you have particular modules fixed for a particular unit, it will help a lot. So break down the bigger code in smaller units of code. It will be easier for you in a later time to build and scale the software better. Okay, then refactoring. Refactoring is very important. Like we used to run sonar reports on the particular builds we have, and then we used to find out what are the insecurities, what are the vulnerabilities, where is the SQL injection issue, what are the security issues, what are the performance issues, right? So all of this we used to do that. So refactoring of the code is important so that we have to do it in a better way, right? Like for example, one of the pieces of code is not able to download reports. Then we figured out that we have written the code in such a way that everything is going, the data is being moved into the memory. So it's not going to help us. So we have to refactor that code, right? So refactoring is very important. Next point. So block time to refactor in the Slack, right? For example, in the quarterly release we must block dedicated time, at least 2 days to refactor the entire code. Right? If you're talking about a week, at least 3 hours a week, we should refactor time for refactoring. Like in one of the organizations I was working, we had a client and the client told, yes, you can use this time in this sprint to just refactor the code so that we remove the technical debt. Okay, so usually XP teams, what they do is for a quarterly release, they refactor some time for, they keep some time for refactoring, and this is usually called a Slack, or they keep some minor changes in Slack. So the simplicity comes by refactoring the code again and again. Next, so as I told you, we'll address the technical debt also in the refactoring, and then finally, don't build until it's needed. As I told you, that's the first point. So simplicity means we will not build the code unless and until it is needed. So that's your first value in XP that talks about simplicity. Next, respect. XP says that the people who work over there need to be respected. There have to be a lot of collaboration among people. So first thing is respect. You have to give respect to your teammates. You have to listen to them. When people come and give you their views and share their views, you have to listen. You have to respect. If you're giving them feedback, you have to give it in a respectful manner. You cannot put derogatory comments. You cannot snub people. You cannot become autocratic out there. You have to be a servant leader. You have to understand things, right? So respecting people, their opinion, their views, the way they are working. Yes, if there are issues, then there is a way to give feedback. So the next value XP says is respect. We need to respect each other when we are working, because only then it's a greater work environment, an energetic work environment where people like to come and work every day. Okay. Next, courage. XP teams also exhibit the next value called as courage. By courage, we mean that people exhibit courage by taking up challenges, by calling out issues if there are some blockers. So these are the things that XP teams have to do. So they have to call out these things when there is happening an issue on the project. Okay, and then if there's impossible goals, like you are asking somebody to do something that takes 5 months in 2 months, they should have the courage to come and speak out. When they're giving feedback to the teammates, they feel it's important for them to give feedback. They have to have the courage to give the feedback. So this is also one of the values in XP, giving feedback and then courage, right? So having courage is very important for them to work on the project, to give feedback with their teammates, with the customer, with the leaders, with the stakeholders. You should exhibit courage when you're working on projects in an XP team. The next one is communication. So communication is very important. Let's try to understand what all do we have under communication. In communication, we are talking about how are we increasing the communication? We are increasing the communication by having the teams seated next to each other. So the teams are co-located. When the teams are co-located, the communication increases. There's osmotic communication also, right? Then osmotic communication is like you're sitting there working over there and somebody comes and talks about something important about the project or some issue on the project or some new feature coming to the project. So you get that information by just being available in the co-located place. So osmotic communication also helps. Then information radius. When people are seated co-located,
if you have the task board in front of them, people can just stand there and then talk to each other about their particular task they're doing. They can have the daily stand-ups over there and have some discussions. Like this is again going back to the agile value, individuals and interactions or process and tools. So the process and tools is over here, the practice which I have put, the practice of standing in front of the scrum board and talking, and the value of individual interactions, right? So that's the important part. So people are talking with this particular Jira board or the scrum board or whatever board we have, the task board we have in XP. So people come, stand there and talk, right? So that also communication is very, very key value, because we have to talk in front of the task boards. Next, pair programming. So the next part of the communication is the pair programming. When people sit and work together, they have to do pair programming, so they have to talk to each other. Imagine two people working as pair programming, one doesn't talk to, like, okay, well, what do you think about this code? Like, I don't know. Why should I tell you? Can't you figure it out? Why do you keep always asking me? That is not the way we do pair programming. You have to talk to people, and if you talk, you're not going to talk in this way, which I just gave some examples, right? So there has to be communication. There has to be a lot of communication experience, right? So communication is one of the key values. Next thing is, so also we need to ensure that we are avoiding interruptions, right? We don't want people, the team, to get to be disturbed, right? We have to kind of be a shield somewhere and then stop those interruptions. So that's about the communication value. Let's go to the next value. It's called as seeking feedback. Okay, this is very, very nice, because the ways of getting feedback in XP is very, very good. Let's try to see how many ways are we trying to get feedback in XP. So frequent verifications. So what are the ways of getting feedback or doing frequent verifications in XP? So the first and foremost thing is pair programming. That happens in like seconds. Within seconds you get feedback, right? So pair programming. The next thing is unit testing. So once the code is ready, you're going to validate the code. You are doing some interesting as a developer. So this you can feedback and get within 10 minutes. Then you have got 10 minutes well. So customer collaboration. So if you're getting feedback from customer, you're asking some understanding, some details from the customer. This also could be done within hours. Then stand-up meetings. Stand-up meetings are held every day. So every day you get a feedback from your teammates, from yourself, or what are you doing right, what are you not on the track. If you need some help, do some course corrections. So even the stand-up meeting help you get feedback within 1 day. Then you have got acceptance tests. Acceptance tests also give you feedback within few days. Once the code is delivered in UAT, after QA is done, goes to customer for UAT. The customer will come back in a couple of days and says, boss, what you made is right, but I need this alignment to be done like this, or this format, the logo needs to be changed, or this particular button, the logic is incorrect, the decimal place is not coming up. So those kind of feedbacks you can get from the customer within days. Then demos. Within a week, every sprint, every iteration, there is a weekly iteration. You can demo and get feedback from the customer. So many points of frequent verification. You should be seeing this on your screen. Okay, releases. Then frequent releases. The release could be happening once in quarter and get feedback, or take a month also, right? So these are the ways of getting feedback in XP. So much of feedback improves the quality of the software. The valuable software is going to be a working software that's going to help the people. So much feedback, so much course correction is going to actually increase the value of the software, the quality of the software. Okay. Next thing, frequent verification. Some more wireframes. People make wireframes of the screens which you have to build. That's also good way of seeking feedback. Then integrating code with the CI/CD pipeline. When there are conflicts, we get feedback. Then again, continuous integration, as I told you. Then again, we are kind of merging the builds. Every 10 minutes build is there. If you're having those things set up, everyone on the team needs to have access to run this build. Again, then you're getting feedback. Then spikes are like a weekly iteration where you want to go and check one particular concept that you want to try. Whatever the POCs, the POC may pass or fail, but the spike is successful because you've got feedback. Okay, so many ways of seeking feedback. See, it's very important for us to seek feedback to improve the way we are developing the software. So as I told you, finally, with all these things, the goal of XP is to build better code. Okay, now I will talk to you about what are the similarities between XP and Scrum. Okay, but I already told you why do you have two different methodologies, XP and Scrum. XP focuses on programming, Scrum focuses on projects. But XP and Scrum do have some similarities. Let's look into those similarities. Okay, so XP has got weekly cycles. Every week there's a demo. There's a theme like the goal in Scrum. Okay, and then after that it's iterative. XP is iterative and XP is incremental. What is the difference between iterative and incremental? Let me help you understand that. This could be a question on some competitive examinations also, right? People get confused. Iterative, what is iterative? What is incremental? Iterative is, let's say you have got a particular use case. The use case cannot be developed in 5 days. It takes you 20 days, 4 weeks, 2 sprints or 4 iterations of 1 week sprint. Okay, so it's like 1, 2, 3, 4. After 4 weeks of working, then you get some feedback from the customer. Then you move to production. After 4 iterations, the code is going into production. This is called iterative way of development. Within one single iteration, when the code is moved to production, it's called incremental. After 4 iterations, when the code goes to production, the code or the software becomes incremental. New features added, it becomes incremental code. Whenever release happens, it is an incremental. If the release happens in 1 week, it is an incremental release. If the release happens after 4 weeks, it is iterative development, and then the increment happens. Clear? When we go to production, it is an increment. When we are getting ready to go to production in 3 or 4 steps, those are called iterations. 3 or 4 sprints are called 3 or 4 iterations before the production launch. Clear? Okay, so XP is iterative, XP is incremental. Then XP also uses stories like our Scrum. Then XP has got demos. Okay, this is also like Scrum. So XP roles. So XP has got 4 roles. One is called as the customer, one is called as the coach, one is called as the developer, one is called as the tracker. So coach is the guy who's there who kind of ensuring people are living the XP values. A tracker is the person who's ensuring they're getting the things done. Okay, and customer is, as you know, customer is going to give the feedback, and developer is also there. Developer is also going to give us work on the development with the testing team. Okay, next. When to use XP? So we use XP when there's a dynamically changing environment of software requirements. Okay, complex, cohesive, uncertainty, empirical, inspect, adapt, when all this is needed, we use XP. Okay, then so we have small and co-located teams, then also we use XP. Then technology allows for automated unit and functional test cases to be run, then also we use XP. So these are the times when we are going to use XP. Okay, I've told so many things. We can use as many practices as possible, but see what is feasible for you and start using that. You may not need all, but if you're doing it well and good, but you can use most of these and then start working on XP in your projects. So before I go towards the similarities between XP and Scrum, I'm just putting this mind map to help you understand, summarize whatever we have learned. We learned about the XP teams. XP teams are co-located. XP teams are collaborative. They have cohesive. XP teams work in pair programming. XP teams have a lot of communication. So this is how the XP teams work. The focus of these XP teams is to embrace change so that we deliver a good working software. The focus is to deliver better quality of code. That is the primary focus of XP. Then XP is also like Scrum in few things, like they are also having roles. Then they also have themes and iterations. There are quarterly themes and weekly iterations in XP. Then XP also uses something called a Slack in their quarterly releases, which is a simple task or refactoring task, which we want to put some time to ensure that we enhance a refactor and we kind of improve the quality of code. We remove the technical debt. Okay, then we looked about the 5 XP values. One was the communication, the next was simplicity, and then after that we had respect, we had courage, and then we had one more value called as feedback, right? Getting feedback. We saw like so many ways of getting feedback in XP. Every minute, like pair programming is there, unit testing is there, and then after conflict management, then a user feedback, then UAT, then after builds, right? So many ways of getting feedback in XP. Okay, so XP teams, what do? They have got 4 roles. They've got a developer, a tracker, a coach, and a customer. So this is all in all about XP. So now let's see what are the similarities between XP and Scrum. Okay, so XP has got weekly cycles, themes, iterative, incremental, user stories, and demos. And they have got something called a Slack. We know this. Similarly, what does Scrum has? Scrum also has got, like weekly cycles, they've got sprints, a 2-week sprint, 3-week sprint, or a 4-week sprint. Then Scrum also has got sprint goals like the themes in XP. Then it is also iterative. Scrum is iterative, incremental, and user stories and demos are there in Scrum. So these are the similarities between XP and Scrum. Okay. Then XP roles, we spoke customer, coach, developer, tracker. I'm just repeating. Similarly, in Scrum, we have got roles like PO, we have got Scrum Master, and the development team. I've recorded a separate video on all these roles in Scrum. You can watch that video and get to know roles in Scrum. So XP values, we saw that there are 5 values: respect, courage, feedback, simplicity, and communication. These are the 5 values. Of these values, 2 are similar in Scrum. We have respect, we have courage in Scrum, and then we have got focus, openness, and commitment. So these are the values which are there between Scrum and XP. So as you see, like these were the similarities between XP and Scrum, the difference from. But XP we saw like being used to ensure the way we code. Okay, so if you want to improve working on a complex software, you want to make the software scalable, you want to solve bigger problems, adopt XP. If you want to embrace change, if you want to get faster feedback or co-located team, there's got very technical stuff to be done, right? Then we use XP. Okay, so thank you for watching my video. This is Arham Faraaz. Please do like, subscribe, and share my channel. Comment on my channel. Please share this video. Bye bye. So what is Scrum? So in this mind map, I'm going to help you understand more about Scrum slowly. So Scrum is a framework and a methodology. So what happens in this framework? This framework follows a set of practices. Okay, so this framework, Scrum framework, follows a set of practices. So this practices is nothing but how people work, when do they work, how do they kind of give some output to the software. So Scrum is all about self-organizing teams working together in collaboration. They inspect, they adapt, and then they have a lot of transparency. So these are the pillars of the Scrum. So, so Scrum follows agile mindset. It follows an empirical process. So what is an empirical process? An empirical process is one in which we inspect and we adapt. We inspect things, is it working fine or not, and then we adapt it, right? We make some tweaks, we make some changes, and then that's going to work efficiently. And also, one more part of this is that one of the pillars of Scrum is transparency. So inspection, adaptation, and transparency. Transparency is the third pillar of Scrum. So all of this kind of help us work better. So transparency happens because we use a lot of Scrum boards. Everybody knows what's on the what's the work in front of us, who's going to do what. So that's about the Scrum board and the transparency. So Scrum is used for what? It is used to deliver projects. Okay. Once the project is launched, we use another framework called Kanban framework. Okay. But when we want to deliver projects, we use Scrum. That's the main difference. So for faster delivery of softwares, we use Scrum methodology, wherein we kind of deliver projects at regular intervals from a shorter duration of 2 to 4 weeks. We are giving value to the customer. So the shorter duration, the faster delivery happens with MVP. MVP is a minimum viable product, something that can be used by the user easily in a short duration of time. So that's the MVP. Okay, so let's go a little bit forward more. So and we deliver high business value. So in this short duration, we are going to deliver high business value to the customer. Then how is this delivery happening? Through iterations and sprints. So the software is built through a lot of iterations, sprints, and then the user gets the output. Okay, so a working software. So that's about Scrum, how is it used for, and then it is a way of continuous improvement, step by step improvement, right? Consistently we are improving, we are having some checks, feedbacks, and we are adjusting the way we are working. So that's all about Scrum at a very high level. Let's move ahead into more details. So what is Scrum framework? Let's try to understand that in detail. Okay, so Scrum has got few set of roles. So what are the roles in Scrum? So the first role is that of a product owner. A product owner is a person who works with the end users, the business, and understands what is the valuable software that's needed for the end user. And then he comes back and works with the delivery team and then ensure the development team, what we call in Scrum, and ensure the software is built. That is the first role as a product owner. This is the person who does all kind of prioritization. So that's the most important thing is here that the prioritization of the work, what value needs to be delivered to the customer. We'll see more details on the slides of the product owner. So then we have the Scrum Master. A Scrum Master is the servant leader on the project who kind of facilitates the entire sprint, the delivery, helps people understand Scrum principles, Scrum values, agile mindset, and then ensure the software is delivered. He is the one who's kind of removing impediments or roadblocks for the work that's happening. And then we have development team. A development team is a set of people, the developers, testers, analysts, UI designers. All of these people are working together to kind of build this software. Yes, that's the development team. So first thing, Scrum framework is the rules. Next, we'll see what are the artifacts. So what are the artifacts we're maintaining in Scrum? So the first one is product backlog. Product backlog is set of all the features that need to be built. Okay, it is a long list of features. On project, this never gets end, right? We keep on adding features that are needed for the customer. So it's an exhaustive list of things that needs to be built and delivered to the customer. That's the product backlog. Sprint backlog is the prioritized portion of the product backlog that that the development team comes and executes and delivers in a particular iteration called sprint. Okay, that's the sprint backlog. Product increment. Product increment is the working software that comes at the end of the sprint. Once we demo something at the end of the sprint and sprint review, that's the product increment. We'll have separate slides for all of these roles, artifacts, and give more details so that you understand more. But just want to put a small mind map so you get the picture of this particular roles, artifacts, because mind maps help us in learning faster. It uses both the right and the left side of our brain to gather more information. Okay, so then ceremonies or events. So what are these ceremonies or events in Scrum? So the first one is sprint planning. This happens in the beginning of the sprint. Okay, so we plan what needs to deliver, we set a goal, and all other things that needed to kind of what to be delivered for that particular sprint. We discuss, we estimate, we break down tasks. We'll see more in coming slides. So then we have daily scrum. Daily scrum is also called as a daily stand-up, wherein people stand for 15 minutes and then try to understand what did you do yesterday, what we're planning to do today, and then are there any roadblocks. And that's a daily scrum, daily stand activity. That's more like a progress check on the sprint towards the sprint goal. Then we have got sprint review. Sprint review is done at the end of the sprint, on the last day of the sprint. It takes at least 2 to 3 hours to demo what has been developed based on the size of the sprint. For a 10-day sprint, it's like at least 2 hours. For a 30 days, it will be like 4 hours of demo also. And then retrospective. So this is one of the agile principles that says at regular intervals we kind of review what has been delivered. So the retrospectives happen. The sprint retrospectives are that we check how the sprint go, what we could have done better, and like how we could have improved, what went wrong, and what are the action items. We'll see more of this in the coming slides. Then lastly, a sprint. So what happens in the Scrum framework? We kind of deliver sprints. In a sprint, every sprint we are designing, we are building, we are testing. So every sprint has these 3 iterations. So that's on about the Scrum framework, mind map. I would request you take a pen and paper, pause the video. If you want to just sketch this out, it'll be easier for you to understand what are the different roles, ceremonies, artifacts, and what happens in a sprint or a Scrum. So let's go and understand deeper about Scrum roles. So the first role is of that of a product owner. So what does a product owner do? He works with the end users. A product owner works with the end users. He understands like what features need to be delivered. He defines the features. He defines the stories. He kind of comes and chops down like what has to be built for this particular sprint. In the sprint, so that's what a product owner does. He prioritizes the features. So prioritization is one of the key tasks of a product owner. Then he is also coming to review the product demos, to inspect things, to ensure that everything is working fine. So he's also then the sprint reviews and sprint demos. Then he is the person who's ensuring we get return on investment for this particular software that's being built. Okay, usually if you're in service organization, product owner would be in the product side, in the client side, or if you have a product based company, it could be a solution people who are the product owners who are helping you build this. Then he attends the sprint planning and the sprint review. So these 2 meetings, surely he'll be attending other meetings and daily scrum and retrospectives are optional for him. He could also give a feedback for the retrospectives. So this is what a product owner does. Scrum roles. Scrum roles are now, what does a Scrum Master do? So Scrum Master is a servant leader. Okay, so he's the person who's ensuring that team gets all the things necessary to deliver the output. Any explanation or clarification needed, he's working with the business users, the product owner, to ensure that the details are there. He's working internally with cross-functional teams to ensure all the access is there and the resources are there, removing impediments. Right, he's also helping the team learn and understand Scrum. Okay, so he removes improvements. He helps the PO, the product on POs for the product on managing the product backlog. He promotes Scrum, he guides team, he helps people in adopting Agile. So that's his role. He also facilitates the Scrum ceremonies.
like sprint planning, daily scrum, sprint review, retrospective. So these things he's facilitating. And he's a systems thinker. He thinks about the whole of the project. Like, why are you doing this project? What's the benefit, right? That's the greater role of a scrum master. Okay, so this is what a scrum master does. Let's go ahead and try to understand more about it. About now, the next role is the development team. So development team is a group of developers, testers, designers working together to build the software, right? So what do the development team do? So the development team kind of, they own the sprint backlog. They deliver the working software. Okay, so that's what a development team does. Then they demo the product. So that the product is built, they're demoing it. They have got developers, testers. So they code things, they test things. So these are things that the development team keeps doing. So this they are like T skill shaped. So like for example, there will be experts in one particular skill, like say coding in one thing, but they'll also do some kind of testing also. So they could be pro in, let's say, Java, and then maybe in front end they knew at least some basics, right? So we want them to be stretched across words, like jack of all and master in one. That's what these skills means. Okay, and they're part of all these Scrum ceremonies. So they should be available in all the Scrum ceremonies that happen, and they are self-organizing teams. They're picking and the work and doing it themselves. Nobody's going to assign them tasks. So Scrum is all about, Scrum and Agile mindset is all about being self-organized and a lot of collaboration. So Scrum team could be from size of like 5 to 9 people. We don't want to keep less than 2 people. We don't want to go beyond 9 people. 5 to 9 is a considerable size for a good Scrum team. So that's about the Scrum roles. Then they also help in the estimation. So the team does the estimation of the user stories. Scrum ceremonies or events. So what are the Scrum ceremonies or events? So these are meetings that happen at a particular time on a particular cadence. Few of them repeat every day, and sprint on sprint, this particular ceremonies or events will surely happen at the same time and usually for the same time boxes. Okay, so that's about these Scrum ceremonies. Let's try to understand more about the Scrum ceremonies over here. Okay, so the first one is sprint planning. So what happens in a sprint planning? So when does this happen first? It starts at the beginning of each sprint. Sprint planning happens at the beginning of each sprint. So that's the first thing in a sprint. Then usually for a 2 week sprint, sprint planning happens for 4 hours. Over here, everybody, the development team, the PO, the Scrum Master, everybody is available. The PO prioritizes the work that needs to be done. You would come and say, okay, fine, these 10 stories is what I need you to build in this particular sprint. Now, then after that, the development team decides the goal, what can be built based on the capacity of their work. Okay, so the dev team commits to the sprint goal. So out of 10, they would say, okay, fine, we can do like 6. This is what we can do at a sustainable pace. So in this particular sprint planning meeting, the breakdown of stories also happen. The breakdown of tasks, the features, more details are evolving. So we're kind of decomposing the features into smaller parts. And usually it's called as user stories that will be used to develop the software. Then estimation of user stories happens in the sprint planning. Then Scrum Master acts as a facilitator in the sprint planning meeting. Okay, so these are some of the important points on sprint planning. You should be able to answer many questions on sprint planning with these inputs. Okay, so the next one is the very important thing. It happens daily. It's called as the daily stand-up. Okay, so in this meeting, we're talking towards the progress towards the sprint goal, right? We're coming and discussing that. So it happens every day for 15 minutes. We ask 3 questions. What did I do yesterday? What am I planning to do today? And do we have any blockers? Then people watch the Scrum board and see how things are moving from left to right, from to do to development, or to do to design, development, and testing, and then validation, and then done. Okay, so people refer the Scrum board. So everyone joins this particular meeting. PO is optional for the daily Scrum. It's not mandatory for the PO to come for daily Scrum or the daily stand-up. So daily stand-up is more like a commitment to the team, wherein people come and tell what is it they are working upon, right? So it's more like a commitment than like more for progress update.
And this is used to remove blockers. So Scrum Master understands what are the blockers. He works with the team to remove these blockers. And then this daily Scrum is just for 15 minutes, right? We are not doing any kind of problem solving over here. So for problem solving, teams should have separate meetings. RC is not done separately, not in this meeting. So we inspect and we adapt in this meeting. Okay, so that's what we are doing, the empirical way of working. So in the daily stand up, we are inspecting and adapting what needs to be delivered. So that's about the daily stand up. Let's go to the sprint review. So sprint review is very, very important because in this meeting, we are actually seeing what the team is going to demo. The team does a demo of the working software. This is what we have built and this is how it looks, right? And then we have got PO and other stakeholders will come and validate. So in the sprint demo, so we also are looking into, did we meet the sprint goal? That's also been looked into, and then we get feedback from the PO, from the users. Have we met the sprint goal or not? Retrospective. So again, the retrospective happens after the sprint review, wherein people think to make things better for the next sprint. Okay, we ask questions. We kind of set a state, and we ask questions like, what went well, what can be improved, what are the action items, and then we are, and people are asked to be open for feedback, right? People not like, okay, so the development team didn't do a good job, or the testing didn't do a good job, or the requirements are not clear. So this is where we have to come and show the one of the values of Scrum called as courage and openness, wherein people open up feedback and people are like strong enough to give courage enough to give the feedback also, right? So that this is the regular interval check that happens in one of the Agile 12 principles in Agile, right? That's the retrospective. And PO is optional over here, so it happens towards the end of the sprint. It will kind of run for at least say an hour or something, so that we can gather feedback and make improvements. Okay. I have had retrospectives wherein the customer also used to join and take feedback and then improve things at their end. We would improve things at our end. So that's retrospective. This is very, very important. This is where we do the course correction. Okay, this is the inspect and adapt, the pillars of Scrum, right? So we're giving feedback. Transparency is there. That's one of the best pillars of Scrum. Okay. So now let's go to the next part, that is Scrum artifacts. So what are the Scrum artifacts? We talk about the product backlog. So product backlog is the list of items which we have. So if you see here, so the product backlog, the number of stories, user stories. So it's all these 10 user stories which we have. So that's the product backlog with us. Let me just use a different color. So this is kind of the ownership of the product owner. The product owner owns the product backlog. So he's putting all the features. I just listed 10 features over here. It could be more than that. So 10 user stories are there. So that's the product backlog we have. And it has got a priority. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Right. So the most important ones will get done first. So that's about the product backlog. Let's try to understand more about this. Okay, and here we go. So it is owned by the product owner. The product backlog is owned by the product owner. Anyone can add items over here. So the product backlog, even the development team also can add the items, not just the product owner. Even the Scrum Master can add. Anybody who knows that something needs to be built for the project can be added over here. It's usually a Jira story. So we use a software called Jira where you can add stories, or any software where you can go and add inputs. If there's no software, then you can just use Excel sheet and add inputs. Okay. So then most important part, the prioritization in product backlog happens from the PO. Okay, so PO is the person who does the prioritization for us. So prioritization done by PO. So this could be a question in any of the exams. They're going to test like who's going to do the prioritization, right? Okay, great. So next we have got features, stories, and tasks are listed in the product backlog. There is an order of the product backlog, 1, 2, 3 prioritizations are there. And then the product backlog, the D means is detailed, it is emergent, it is estimated, and it is prioritized. Okay, and it's never complete. Things keep on adding for product backlog. We then take a decision. Okay, fine. This is where we're gonna stop, and now put it things in production, and post production will keep adding on things as CRs. That's about the product backlog, the Scrum artifact. We'll get some questions on this and can answer those. Next one is the sprint backlog. Now, from the product backlog which we had, okay, so what we are trying to do now is from this list, we are going to pick up something for the sprint. Let's say this 4 user stories is what we're going to print. So this becomes the sprint backlog. Of all the 10 items, these 4 items become the sprint backlog for us. Okay, so and the remaining are still in product backlog, but we will focus on this particular items for the sprint. That's what happens in a sprint backlog. Okay, so it is maintained by the team, created in the sprint planning, who does what is decided in the sprint backlog, and then what can be done in the sprint goal is decided. So that's happened in the sprint backlog. So finally, the artifact is the product increment. Product increment is nothing but at the end of the sprint, what is the working software we are going to deliver? Okay, based on this 4 user stories, what is it that's feasible and that's working? Okay, so the working software based on these 4 user stories is kind of being delivered over here. Okay, so that's what happens as a product increment. So let's try to see what are the points we have. So it's the value of the current sprint and the value of the earlier sprints also the product increment. We just for restricting it to the current sprint. The old sprints are also considered. Then it is the working software, the thing that we are need, the most important thing, right? So working software is the most valued thing. So it's the working software that we have, and then it is the demoed software, right? So what has been demoed to the customer. So those are the Scrum artifacts we have. I will now show you how to plan a 10-day sprint capacity. A 10-day sprint capacity, how do you plan? When do we kind of have these sprint ceremonies? What duration? What is the capacity? What is the effort? We'll now plan all that. 10-day sprint capacity planning. Let's get started off with that. Okay. So let's say we have got 3 developers, 1 QA working on this particular sprint. So for the 10-day sprint, it will be like 80 hours per person for the entire sprint. So it's coming like 320 hours. Now, is this the total amount of time that we need to have for the sprint? So is this the total capacity is what looks like right now. But is that the actual capacity? Is it the ideal situation? No, people take leaves, right? So at that time, what do we do when people take leaves? Okay, so at that time we have to look into this and then see what happens. Okay, now let's say somebody goes on leave. So now we are seeing that there are 3 people who are taking leave, right? So like one person's on off on 2 days, one person is off over here, and then there's a public holiday. So you see how days are lost. Now 320 has become like 264. That's the capacity. Now should I take work equal to 264 hours? No, because it has been found out that people are productive to 60 to 70% of the time in a day. So we put a multiplier of 0.7 and 264 that gives us 158 hours of work. So this is the effort. See, your capacity from 320 hours is now translated to 158 hours for the sprint. Right? This is the amount of work you should be doing for this sprint, for a 10-day sprint to deliver. So valuable software that comes out should be equal to this number. Okay, so that's where you're not going to have spillovers. That's a sustainable way of working on development. You'll meet the sprint goal. So sprint goal cannot be beyond 158 hours. Get this right. Okay, so many people don't understand the concept of capacity and effort. So effort then translates into your velocity. The next one. So now let's see, try to understand what ceremonies happens when. So the first one is your sprint planning. So the sprint planning happens on the first day of the sprint for 4 hours. So on day one, we have the sprint planning. It's for 4 hours. So the entire team, the development team, the PO, and the Scrum Master, everybody join and they have the sprint. Then we have the daily stand-ups every day for the next 10 days. The daily stand-up is for every day for the next 10 days, and duration is 15 minutes. Then on the last day of the sprint, day 10, we have got the sprint demo. For a 2 week sprint, it could be a 2 hour demo, and then we have a retrospective for an hour. So this is where the ceremonies are planned in the sprint. So this gives you a clear picture. If you have now done Scrum sprints earlier, use this particular sheet and understand when are the events happening, how do you plan capacity, what is the effort. So that's all about planning a particular sprint in your Scrum. So if I have to summarize everything, then it will look like this, right? So sprint execution. So how does the sprint execution look? Looks like this. So for these many hours, okay, these are ceremonies happen, and then you will have the product backlog over here. So whatever stories that can be developed. So let's say we have got say one, two, three, four stories. So those are number of stories of the sprint which we saw earlier. That's your sprint backlog from product backlog. That's a sprint backlog that comes in. So those four stories will be developed in the sprint. Okay, with 260 with 158 hours of effort. Okay, so that's how the sprint execution happens, and these are the ceremonies that happen in particular duration. So that's about Scrum. We spoke about Scrum roles, artifacts, ceremonies, and capacity, effort, and then sprint ceremonies when they happen. And now let's see what do we have next. Next, we will understand the Scrum roles, events, and artifacts with a short quiz. This is the learning quiz, the knowledge quiz, for us to understand like what we have studied. Let's get started. Okay, so what's the first question? So the first question says, I am a servant leader who guides the team in understanding and implementing the Scrum and helps people outside of the team to grasp it. So you know what is the answer for this? What is the name of this particular role? It is the Scrum Master. And what kind of thing is this? This is a role. Okay, he removed the implements, and this is the role that happens on the project. Scrum Master is a role. So what are the key words you have to look into over here? So the keywords are servant leader, Scrum Master servant leader, and he also helps people outside of the team. He guides the team on the agile practices. That's what the Scrum Master does. I'm held at the end of the sprint to do an inspection of each item that the team built with users and stakeholders who were invited. So we're talking about inspection, we're checking something, right? When you're checking something, it is a sprint review, and this is an event. So what are the keywords over here? So the keywords you have are this end of the sprint. Okay, so inspection, right? Who are coming to the sprint? The stakeholders. That's the answer is sprint review, and it is an event. Okay, good. Let's go to the next question. Okay, and how the team inspects itself, where they look for the things that went well and make a plan to improve things. So it's like at regularly we're checking on things, right? So when does this happen? It happens in an event called retrospective, and this is an event. So again, the keywords that you have to look in over here are these: inspects itself, make a plan to improve things, things that went well, and towards the end, right? Again, retrospective. Okay, so that's the answer. Let's go for the next one. Quickly, just few more questions and we are done with this video. Okay, I'm sum of all the items that the team delivers to the end users at the end of the sprint, and I can only be delivered if every item in me is done. So what is this? This is the product increment, and this is an artifact. Right. So again, the keywords, if you have to look in over here, the keywords are I'm all the items the team delivers to the end users in print, and I can deliver only if every item in me is done to working software. Product implement. Those are the keywords. It's an artifact. Let's go to the next one. I'm a group of professionals who actually do all of the work that needs it to deliver the software to users and stakeholders. Okay, so what do I do? So we are the development team, and it is a role. Okay, so it's very simple. Group of people working together. So that's a development team. All the work that needs to be done for the sprint goal, right? So that's what the development team does. Okay, so that's have. So next question. Let's go to the next question. I'm responsible for deciding what items will go into the product, and I have the authority to accept them as done on behalf of the company. So this is the product owner, right? And it's a role. So what does the product owner have? He is the person who is going to deciding what is the product. He has the authority and on behalf of the company. Right? So that's the product owner and there's a role. Next one. I have a 15-minute time box meeting held every day where team members create a plan for next 24 hours. Help every day. That's the daily scrum. It's an event. Okay. Next one. I what the PO helps the team optimize and maximize, and time the team tries to prioritize the items that have the most of P. I am the value. It's a concept. Okay. Fine. Next one. And the set of items team will build during the sprint along with the plan to build them. Okay. So what is this? I'm the sprint backlog and it's an artifact. So the keywords, if you have to look in, team will build during the sprint. Okay. Along the plan to build them. Right. The sprint planning. That's about it. And okay, I'm a time box meeting where the team comes with a sprint goal, decides which team items they will deliver and decompose into tasks. Sprint planning is the answer, and then it's an event. Okay, so decomposition, planning, everything, all of this happens over here. Okay, so time box meeting, sprint goal, what items they'll deliver, and decompose, right? So those are the things that happen over here. Okay. Okay, then next one. Let's go to the next one. I am an ordered list of items that might be needed in the product at some time in the future. List of items in product future, that's the product backlog, artifacts. So ordered list and future are the keywords. That's it from this video on the Scrum. So those were the quiz questions. So that's about me, my profile. If you like this video, please do subscribe to my channel, share this video, watch this video a couple of times if you want to understand more about Scrum. It will actually help you in your exam preparations also. So all in all, I've just put the entire summary of the Scrum, roles, artifacts, events, what is Scrum, and then the quiz questions. So, and how do we plan capacity and effort for a sprint? Thank you for watching my video. This is Arham Faraaz. I wish you all the best. Please do like and subscribe and please share this video. Bye-bye.
Hello, in this video, I'll be talking to you about Scrum values and pillars. I'll also be sharing how this metaphor of rugby game, the Scrum, was adopted for IT industry by the co-creators of Scrum and how did they put a framework around it. So let's try to understand the values and pillars of Scrum because this is very important for us to learn about Scrum and then it becomes easier to implement it. As I told you in the previous video, Scrum framework is used for mainly managing projects and delivering projects. Right? In this video, you'll understand more about Scrum using the pillars and values. We'll see how these pillars and values are used throughout the entire sprint duration when we're delivering the projects. Let's get started. What do you think are the Scrum pillars when we are working on an IT project? So what are we actually trying to do? Are we checking for something? Are we kind of making mistakes and then adjusting things? Are we having something like, okay, I know what's happening, who's doing what, everybody has that view. Anytime do you get this kind of feeling when you're working on Scrum projects? So around these three things, three pillars of Scrum are created. What are they? Let's see them. The first one is inspection, right? In Scrum, we inspect a lot, okay, when the sprints are being executed, and then we try to ensure that we get the output at the end. Working on the sprints, when things are not meeting, we try to adapt, right? So inspection, adoption, and the third pillar is the transparency. Does everybody know who's working on what? Are we kind of being open in giving feedback? Are we telling that this can be done, this cannot be done, this is sustainable, this is not sustainable, this is not a better logic? So these three things is what The co-creators of Scrum, what Jeff Sutherland and Ken Schwaber told that, okay, let's have these three as the pillars of Scrum. Let's look a little bit more on inspection. In inspection, so what are we inspecting? Things we can inspect is the interactions. How did the interactions go between the developers and the testers, between the developers and the PO? Did we get the clarifications at the right time? Right, many times we don't get the clarifications. Many times the user stories are not clear. Right, are we talking to each other? Right. See, the best part about user story is not like how you write it, right? How much we talk about it, right? How, are those interactions happening with the people, right? The face-to-face communications. So this is one way to inspect things. So to inspect the interactions, how did it go? And then you've got the practices. Did we follow the practices? Did you write the user stories? Did the user stories have the invest criteria? Did the user stories have the acceptance criteria with them? We have to inspect all these practices also, right? Did we kind of look into the burn down chart? Did we see the velocity? Did we actually track these things? Okay, are we tracking the product backlog? Are we seeing what's the product increment? So we have to inspect all of these things. Then after processes, did we follow the processes? Did we meet at the right time? Did we meet on the sprint planning? Did we meet on the daily stand-ups every day? Did we have the retros? Did we have the reviews? Right? Then the daily scrums become practice inspection, retrospectives, right? So these are the things we need to inspect in Scrum. When we're building softwares, we have to inspect how the work is going. This is not micromanagement, but then reviewing and giving course corrections, right? So inspection happens. Now, adaptation. So immediate feedback. When we are doing a demo to the customer, we are getting immediate feedback from the customer. Every 10 days with sprint, we're getting the feedback. I had one of the projects wherein we are building a POC on stitching of few documents, wherein we used to demo everything in the evening to the customer. We're getting a lot of feedback. And the customer is going gaga, right? Wow, great, you guys are doing great. Right? So immediate feedback. Then fix in the next sprint. Right, so we understand, take the feedback, this was not done right, this can be fixed. Now let's kind of do a course correction and then add this in the next sprint and fix it. That's the adaptation you're doing, right? Then after that, improve with the retro feedbacks. We all come together, and in the retrospective we all ask questions like, how did things go well, right? What do we need to improve, and what are the action items? So that's how we start doing the adaptation, right? So this is working fine, it's not working, so let's kind of change few things. That's important. The next thing is the transparency. So transparency starts at the beginning of the sprint itself, right? When the sprint goal is defined, right? Who ensures it? The Scrum Master ensures the transparency, right? So I want you to see this mind map, right? And then after that, the Scrum board also helps with the transparency. The sprint goal is put in front of you. People are giving feedback. You know what is the story status, what is the QA date from the Jira board. You know who's the owner of the story. You know, like what is the delay, the definition of done, the acceptance criteria. So everything is in front of us. The QA results are there on the Jira board. The test trails are there. The QA feedback is there. The comment section. So all those things are there. So everybody knows what's happening. It's a very, very transparent process. It's like nobody's hiding anything. This transparency also helps us progress further and do great in the sprints, right? So that was the mind map. I would request you to kind of have a look of this mind map. Take a pen and paper, make a note of this. These are the three pillars of Scrum, and this is what we do on each pillar. This will help you answer many questions, examinations also like PMP, CSM, and it will also help you work better. Ask yourself this question, right? Are we inspecting? Are we adapting? Are we being transparent? Okay, so let's go a little further. The next few slides will come towards the Scrum values. We finish the pillars. But before that, I want you to give some idea about how did Scrum originate. Right? The co-creator of Scrum was Jeff Sutherland. In his book, he has told like how did they kind of form an idea. His book is like doing double the things half of the time. It's a very lovely book on Scrum. So do read that. So he takes an example from the New Zealand rugby team, the Blacks. They start with a ritual before every match. They start with something called as the Haka Maori dance. So, right, this is a dance which charges up people before a battle, before they get into it. So it's like it brings a lot of synergy. Okay, so the warrior ceremony of Haka, right? So before every match, these guys come, they dance, they get charged up. You should see or just Google this YouTube on YouTube. Go and just search for this. You'll see the dance, see how people are charged up. So he says this is the mindset people need to bring when they come to work together as teams. The intense collaboration the team has, right? Everybody is just having that one goal of taking the ball and put on the other side,
of the line, right? So that's that, and nobody cares like who's going to do it, right? It's not like I'm doing it, you are doing. So the end goal is everybody is aligned towards one end goal. So do watch this video. I also watch this video, so I got a bit charged up. So he used to make his team watch these videos and get charged up, right? Before every sprint. Okay. That's why, as I told you, this is a dance to get charged up. So Scrum framework was set based on observations from the rugby game, right, by the co-creators. And people used to come back in the development team to sit and they used to work, they used to watch these videos, get started up, see, and then after they put a framework based on their observations. So what were their observations? They saw intense focus on the goal. Everybody was just aligned to put the ball on the other side, right? Then radical collaboration, passing on, hands together, locked in, right? That was the radical collaboration which people had. Then hunger to crush the opponent, right? So any roadblocks or impediments that you're getting, you just want to close it off and just want to go forward. The progression, we have to just progress. And then after that, you've got universal. Everybody is happy. How's the mood over there, right? So everybody is like excited, right? So that's what they observed. Now based on that, so they put a framework like let's have sprints, the time box duration, wherein we want to achieve one goal. So the duration of sprint doesn't change. The time box doesn't change. It can be 11 days, 10 days, 9 days. 10-day sprint is always a 10-day sprint for the next 10, 15 sprints if you already planned for. Okay. And then daily stand-ups. They put daily stand-ups that let's have a ritual wherein people come and talk about the progress and the updates and then make some course corrections. Going back to the pillars of Scrum: inspection, adaptation, right? And giving feedback. Then reviews. They wanted to kind of reviews. Did we meet the goal? Did we put the ball at the other end? Right? They wanted to have sprint demos, sprint reviews, and then after that, they also wanted to ensure how did you do better. The motivational speech from the coaches usually after the halftime, right? There's a retrospective. You didn't do this, let's do this better. So that's what happens. Okay. So then after putting all of these things together, they wanted to ensure that somebody should be there to ensure this to make this process effective. Now, who was this person? Who's going to be this person, right? Could be he or she, anybody on the IT team. So that person was the Scrum Master. Scrum Master is now going to ensure that this entire process framework is followed to ensure that we meet the sprint goal. Okay. Now, so how do we do it in IT? We have the retrospectives, we have the daily stand-ups, we have the reviews, we have the Scrum practices, Agile Principles, and then we have got the Scrum pillars also. We follow all of this to ensure that we meet the end goal of a working software. Getting it? Okay, so now let's understand what are the Scrum values. So there are 5 values of Scrum. I'll also show you a mind map now. Then I'll give you a mnemonic on this, and then you can also make a flashcard out of it. Okay, the first value of Scrum is called as focus. We need people to be focused on one particular goal. Okay, I'll talk to you more about this. First, let me give you all the 5 values, and then I'll give you the details around each of these values. After focus, we have got respect. What does respect mean in a Scrum team? How do the teams collaborate? How should people behave with each other? How do they present their points? That's the next value. Then openness. What is the culture of openness in Scrum team? How are we going to share like what is the feedback? Like how are we doing? What should we be doing? What is wrong? What is available? How are we being transparent? Right. Then after that, courage. How should we show courage on a Scrum team? Tell things what we can do, what we cannot do. And then after that, commitment. How are we committed to the sprint goal and who should be committed? So these are the 5 values of Scrum. Let's try to understand little by little in detail. Focus, sprint goal. So we should be focused on the sprint goal. Everybody's focus should be the sprint goal. Those 6 user stories that we want to demo at the end of the sprint, that is a sprint goal. With this 3 or 4 developers or the 2 developers and 1 tester, right? So all of them are aligned together, working with the Scrum Master and product owner to ensure that we go and deliver this goal of the sprint. Okay, so that should be focused, then nothing else. We are not even targeting of any spillovers. We're not even targeting of any reworks, right? So reworks, defects, everything, whatever is, close it in the sprint and then just go and demo a working software. Okay, then ensure focus means assigning the developer one task at a time. You cannot have one developer working on 2 different projects or 3 different projects. A lot of time is lost in context switching.
I have recorded one video on 7 lean ways when we talk about this, how much of time is lost on context switching. Okay, when people move from one project to other project and the sprint, it doesn't help. Okay, so that's very, very important. We have to solve this problem of capacity and then ensure people come and work efficiently. Then after that, respect. So how do people develop respect, right? How do we bring trust between the teammates? How are we ensuring that, okay, all of us are locked in the hands together towards the sprint goal, right? So there must be trust between the teammates, right? So everybody should be that, okay, fine, I can back you up, I can share my thoughts over here, I can work with you. Then after, increased collaboration. There should be a lot of collaboration, not only within the Scrum team, but with other cross-functional teams also, right? With the DevOps team, with the support team, with the customer success team. So there has to be a lot of cross-functional collaboration as well as a lot of collaboration within the team. Okay, the Scrum team is one team who's going to ensure that we're going to get the output. Okay, then after that, listen to disagree. When people are giving feedback, first you listen. If you agree, great. Then if you don't agree, then tell why you don't agree. What is a better approach? It's not just okay, I'm listening and I'll be discussing. First thing is listen. Listen to people when they come and tell, okay, fine, this is where I'm stuck. Can you help me out? I have done this. I don't have this information. I've not done this. Can you get this information? Or this logic is not working. I need some help. First, listen. If the approach is not, okay, fine, you're not taking care of this refactoring. This has to be done in this way. Then you disagree. So listening is the first thing, right? So good leaders are good listeners. Listening is what you have to do first. Then after that, estimating. Respect when people come and give estimates. I need 3 days to do a particular task. Yes, take 3 days. Listen, okay, fine. Let's go and close this in the next 3 days. Okay, that's very important. Then everyone knows. Then openness. Let's talk about openness. Openness is like everyone knows who's working on what. From the Jira board, from the Scrum board, everybody knows like what is happening, and then they are fine. Okay, this is what we need to do. Okay, then after that, bring out the issues in the daily stand-ups, right? Bring out the issues. Okay, I'm stuck over here. Can somebody help me out? I tried this, was not working, right? Okay, I'm not getting that approval. That team is not responding back to me. I'm not getting this config updated because the team from the product side is not getting this done. The product team says they need like 5 to 7 days to do this. The customer says we have to put it in this sprint. They have the roadmap. So bring out the issues. Talk to people. Let the Scrum Master know. Let him go and do the work. Okay, bring out the issues. Then helps in finding a way to get things unblocked, right? The openness helps us remove the unblock. Unless until we talk to people, unless until we reach out to people and tell them what's the blocker, we'll not be able to do things. Finally, then courage. The Scrum teams should have great courage. They should be able to take on the challenge of the project. I'll get it done. Right? As a team, let's go and get it done, right? That's what we expect. Then speak out when things are not realistic. Like, no, what you're saying needs to be done in like 4 sprints of 2 weeks each, and you're telling us do it in 1 sprint. It's not possible. Don't take outrageous goals on as the goals, right? Say no to impossible goals. You have to speak out. You have to give courage. When you come to retrospective, you should show courage and tell, okay, fine, this is where we missed. This is how we have to fix it. The openness, the courage, the culture has to be there. Then commitment, collective commitment. It's not just the Scrum team or the development team who's committed. It's also the leadership team has to be committed on a sprint goal. What is it we want to do and deliver? Okay, so commitment has to be there. That's on the sprint goal from all the stakeholders, both from the customer side and our side. Even the customer has to come and give us clarifications on time. These are the values of Scrum. Let's go to the mnemonic on Scrum. So how do we remember this 5 values? I'll show an image. What is this image? This is an image of a frog. So with this 5 letters, we'll make the 5 values. So F stands for focus, right? R stands for respect. O stands for openness. C stands for courage. And as this, we should be putting a K, commitment, but commitment starts from C. Just think of this word as KOMMI, commitment. Right, so that's the mnemonic you have, frog, FROCK. So it's actually commitment C, right? FROCC doesn't make sense, so I'm just saying let's put it as FROCK, frog. Remember that, but the last C is for commitment. So this is the mnemonic. Make a flashcard, put the 5 letters in front, draw a frog, and behind that you put the 5 values: focus, respect, openness, courage, and commitment. So these are the Scrum values. So that's with this video. I want you to watch this video a couple of times. See how are you working on sprints from the three pillars: inspect, adapt, and transparency. Bring that mindset of that rugby team, the warrior dance that they do. They're align the energy that we have towards the sprint goal. And then after, how are we living these values of Scrum? Focus, respect, openness, and courage. Thank you for watching my video. This is Arham Faraaz. Like it, subscribe it, share this video. Keep watching my videos. I'll be uploading more videos. Thank you once again. Bye-bye. Hello. In this video, I am going to talk to you about Kanban. How the Kanban flow works. How is this different from Scrum? When do we use Kanban? When do we use Scrum? What are the important points in Kanban that's different, like limiting work in progress, the pull system? I will also show you the Kanban flow using the PPT, and I will give you a mnemonic to remember the 5 principles in Kanban. I'll show you a flashcard and then make a mind map. Stay on to remember this. To watch this video, you'll remember a lot of information by the end of this video. Let's get started. What is Kanban, right? So Kanban means a signboard. It is a Japanese term. It says Kanban means a signboard. That means it is visual. So something that's visual, right? So Kanban uses a principle called being visual, see things and how things are moving forward. It helps them do a lot of work. So Kanban is used to improve processes. Once a project is gone live, the launch is done, right? It's gone to production. Then there we have to support the project for a longer time, right? Now this is where the BAU mode, the business as usual mode, or the keep business running mode comes into. And now we have put a process, like changes are coming in, we fix those changes. Right? What will be a dedicated capacity? How soon will we go to production? How often do we need to release? All these things, these processes, policies need to be made explicit. So Kanban is used to manage processes. Right? To deliver projects, we use Scrum, but Kanban is used to manage processes. That's one thing. And it is based on the lean mindset. Kanban is based on a lean mindset. So there is a lot of flow that happens. But in Kanban, we don't have any prescribed roles like product owner, scrum master. People will be then our companies, you may call them with those names, but Kanban doesn't specify any prescribed roles. Okay, you are a scrum master, you're a product owner. Okay, now as I told you, Kanban is used for process improvement, not for project management. So how are we efficiently improving the process to deliver working software as fast as possible? In one of the organizations where I've worked, we can have 2 releases every week. Right? There is a process for that. Right? There have been organizations we do releases every month, every week. Once things have gone to production, so this is the process that's been followed. Okay. Then 2 important things to be remembered for Kanban is limiting the work in progress and pull system. What do you mean by limiting the work in progress? Let's try to understand that. Let's say, for example, you have 2 developers working on this particular post-production system for a particular client, right? So 2 developers are there, and at a given point of time, how many things can we work in parallel? 5 things, 6 things, 7 things? No, at most 2 things, because you've got 2 developers who can work in parallel, one by one on one task. So limiting work in progress is at any given point of time, one person should be having only one task. That's where the productivity increases. That's where the output increases. That's what Kanban advocates. Limit the work in progress so that the output increases, the productivity increases, and then we can see better results. If we start doing multitasking, it's not going to help. There's a myth that multitasking helps. No, it doesn't help. People lose a lot of time in context switching. It is one of the lean waste. Okay, so limiting work in progress, like have a dedicated capacity. Take work equal to that capacity. Once something is completed, it goes to the next queue. That's where the pull system comes. If one of the columns is blank and when you're working, then you pull work over there. It means there's no work, let's pull something. We have to optimize this. We'll see this in this video. Hang on, okay? So limiting work in progress and then pull system. 2 important things. Okay. In Kanban, capacity is considered to pull work to the next stage. Okay, how much capacity does it drive, right? Unlike another task board that show only status, Kanban board is more of based on this capacity, this work is coming in. Okay, so this is a sample Kanban board in front of you. I have given an example of a login. feature wherein there is a story for login, user story for password policy, or two-factor authentication, and number of concurrent sessions that can be logged in at a given point of time based on number of devices, maybe web or app or whatever is decided. Okay, so that's right. Now let's take an example of, say, Netflix. So Netflix, you have got a login, and they have a password policy, easy password, tough password, right? And then if they want to make it more stronger, well, usually in banking applications there's two-factor authentication, but if they want to put a two-factor authentication, they can put that also. And then number of concurrent sessions, that's they're very much worried about, right? They don't want two people to sit and watch at the same time, so they have to restrict these. So these are the user stories they want to put into the product. Okay, so how do you get work done? Whenever you see a blank column, means you have to pull work. Okay, a blank column is indicator that work can be pulled from left to right. Okay, that's the main thing. Means there's no work, the person's idle, there is work, pull the work from left to right. Okay, so let's see how this board behaves. Now we have got these 4 stories with us. Okay, so one is one person at a time in both the things. So let's say he starts off with his work, so working on the login story. So we can't have login as well as password policy come together in Kanban. Okay, that's what Kanban says. You can't take this also and work at the same time. You can't have 2 stories work in parallel. Okay, Kanban doesn't advocate that. It says just take one thing because your limiting work in progress is over here. Next one is, let's say this story is done, it goes to test. Okay, so again you have got only one tester, so it's going to be only one person testing. You can't have 2 things for testing. The moment this goes to testing, you see this blank column now. So this blank column means, as I told you, pull something over here, right? So something will come in over here now. So what is that coming? The next story, we'll pull the next story developer does, that comes in over here. Okay, you see the password policy story is gone. Okay, so he'll work on this. So moment he's completed this, it will go to the next two. Again the testing, work in progress and on. Let's say we had 2 developers working. We could have pulled the 2-factor authentication provided there's no dependency on the password policy and 2-factor authentication. These are all small minor config developments, have not a lot of custom development. So these are one examples, right? Okay, next one. So what happens now? Let's say the testing is done or it's gone to done. It's ready to be delivered, it's gone to customer. So what happens? Tester is free now. Again, I can pull him. Even the next work provided the development is completed. Right? That works go there. Now let's say the developer is completed, so it's a blank column. I get a 2-factor authentication story and I start working on that. Okay, so that's what is called as limiting work in progress. Okay, now let's see how does this help. Limiting work in progress helps us increase the productivity. Okay, it helps us do faster completion of the work. So these are the 2 important things. We increase the productivity and this faster completion of the work. Okay, that's the benefit. And people are not stressed out. It's a sustainable way of working. Okay, people are happy. Okay, fine. Like for example, I was working in a services company wherein we had monthly releases. So they came back and told, okay, when you've got one developer who's working on this, 160 hours of work is going to take. Like, no, sorry, we can't take 160 hours of work. Okay, we are just going to take 120 hours because we have to sit and look into the QA, we have to attend the calls, right? So we limited the work in progress amount also like 120 hours in a month, and then we started delivering because a lot of time goes into the meetings and discussions and testing, right? So productive work, 120 hours of effort is what we decided to take in, and we took that. So limiting work in progress is important. Like so for retail kind of projects, for managed capacity projects, use Kanban. It helps you a lot. Okay. So why limit work in progress again? So if you have too many things in work in progress, no returns until product is accepted. Let's say 6 things are work in progress, not in one is gone out. So what's the return? Okay, too many tasks in parallel decrease the ROI. Then too many things work in progress, you don't know what are the bottlenecks, what is stuck where, who's doing what. Then risk in form of rework. Lot of too many things work in progress, lot of rework is also going to happen. Okay, WIP probability will be higher for a rework. Okay, if there are too many things in rework, in work in progress, the rework will be higher. Okay, understand this because you're not figuring out things, you're not testing things, you're not validating things immediately. Okay, now let's talk about Little's law. Little's law says that how long it takes to complete a work is directly proportional to how much work is in progress. If there are 5 things in the work in progress queue, right, then that's a work in progress. How long will it take to complete the work? Once you complete the 5 things. So let's say 5 things going to take 5 days. Okay, all those things. So it's going to take 5 things taking 5 days. How long? 5 days. 5 things is that. Let's say we had just one thing work in progress. It takes only 1 day. Immediately next day it can be used. That is the beauty. Understand this. Okay. Next. So how to use Kanban to improve processes for software development? So we have got this process like define, design, build, test, and deploy. So how does this work in Kanban? So everything this is two concepts of cycle time and lead time. Cycle time is the time it takes to do one particular task or activity, like defining things. Okay, I need like 1 day to analyze. Design, again, I have to design the solution. It takes like 1 day. Then building might take say 3 days. Right? Testing might say take 1 day, and deployment might say half a day or 1 day. So this is the cycle time to do a particular activity based on the size of the work. Okay, lead time is the total time it takes to deliver the working software to the customer. Understand these two differences. Cycle time is the work it takes to do activity. 4 or 5 cycle times together will give you a lead time. Okay, getting it? Good. Now, how do we limit work in progress? Now, in front of you are seeing define, design, build, test, deploy. So the people, so in the define, we have got 2 people. When you define things, are 2 people. Designing things, again 2. So this is a limiting work in progress. Building, we have got 6. Okay. Testing, we have got just 1 tester. Right. Deployment, there will be 1 person. So nobody's there yet. Nobody's defined. So how do we ensure that this is optimized? Okay. So output, what will be the output, right? So before that, understand what is the output or what is an output. Output is the velocity or the effort that comes out of it, right? So the output can be increased. People think we're just adding more people, right? No, that's not it. If you limit work in progress, the working software output will be increased, right? Instead of having more things in working progress, just 1 or 2 things are there equal to the number of people we have, then the output is better. Okay, so that's called as a concept called as throughput. Throughput is working progress by cycle time. We already saw what a cycle time duration it takes to do one particular task or activity. We are now optimizing the flow. We are managing the flow. So we saw 6 people earlier in build and test. Now we did a run through of one sprint, and we understood that okay, within 10 days this is what's happening. So we are now saying okay, let's make the build and test as 4, build as 4, testing as 2, and define design 2 is fine. So every time one thing moves from left to right, we are ensuring something else is there. Let's say from design 2 it becomes 1. It's open for one more thing. Something from define can be pulled in if it's ready. Okay, that's a managed flow. So build and test 4 are there. Once something goes to testing, we can again pull one thing to build over here, right? So build we have got 4. Once it goes to testing, it becomes 3. We can pull one from design to build. Okay, so that's the managing the flow. Very, very important thing is, so at every point of this, we need to implement some feedback loops. From define to design, there is a review feedback loop. Okay, there is a meeting. We want to review something. Okay, what has been defined, the clarification before we come up with a solution design. Are we ready with that? And then again, from design to build, between the solutioning person or the BSA and the developer, there is a discussion. The tester, there is a discussion. The acceptance criteria is coming out. The user stories are elaborated, right? Then from build to test. So again, there is a discussion between developer and tester. What are unit test cases written? What are test cases written? What is acceptance criteria? What is working? What is not working? What is the observation? So these discussions happen. Then from testing to deployment, we are ensuring that everything is going in. Customer comes back and gives a feedback. Okay, this is not working. So these are the feedback loops that Kanban implements. Okay, that's the inspection and adaptation trying to do what we used to do in Scrum, kind of, right? So that's it's going to help us. So those are the implementing of feedback loops. Okay, so that's about the process flow in Kanban. Now I want to give you a mnemonic to remember the 5 Kanban principles. So what do we see in front of you? We see a virtual machine, right? And virtual machines are there. People give 1 terabyte free space. Yahoo is giving that. Google, if you pay them 2,000 rupees, you're getting like 2 terabyte free space, right? So many companies are there who give a lot of space to use. But again, there is a limit. They say unlimited, but there's a limit to it. Okay, limit. So what I'm talking, these virtual machines have a limit, right? So what the mnemonic I want you to remember is I have put it on a flashcard. VM limits. Okay. So remember that every virtual machine has some limit of data that can go. Okay, it cannot be like infinite. Okay, remember this VM limits is the mnemonic which you're having. Okay, so V stands for visual. Kanban is a very visual process. So visual flow, right? We saw the board, things from left to right. We are seeing what is work in progress, what is limiting work in progress, what is in test, what is in development, how things are moving from left to right. So it's very visual. That's the first principle. Next thing is make process policies explicit. One of the principles is, so you make process policies like, okay, fine, we are gonna write the acceptance criteria. We are gonna follow the user stories written in a particular format. Every time the updates are there, people are putting their comments, right? The test trails and the test cases will be added into Jira. Everybody will update the Jira. We'll put the dates on the Jira. We are using this Jira board or for the Kanban flow from left to right, right? And everything. So we are making some explicit process and policies. We'll meet every day and have discussions, right? So these process and policies should be made explicit with the team. That's the next principle. So VM, the next one is limit. So limit in work in progress, we saw how it helps. We limit the work in progress, is going to give us more output, more productivity. And improve collaboration, right? So we want people to work together. So Kanban says we have to improve collaboratively. So we have got so many reviews, implementing feedbacks, which we saw in the previous slide. People have to work together. Collaboration is the key to success in Agile. Becoming self-organizing and developing collaborating teams makes Agile successful. Okay, then manage the flow. So we see like where it can be optimized. We need more developers or more testers. Let's optimize it in that way. Okay, manage the flow. So remember this mnemonic. Draw this mind map. Use the flashcard and mnemonic. Right, you'll remember this. So watch this video a couple of times. I'm very sure you'll understand the Kanban flow. If you have any questions or doubts, put it in the comment section. I'll get back to you. Thank you for watching my video. This is Arham Faraaz. Bye bye. What is Kanban, right? So Kanban means a signboard. It is a Japanese term in which we have, it says Kanban means a signboard. That means it is visual. So something that's visual, right? So Kanban uses a principle called being visual to see things and how things are moving about. It helps them do a lot of work, right? So Kanban means signboard, that's being visual. So your Kanban boards will be visual. Okay, so let's get started off. So Kanban is used to improve processes. So once a project is gone live, the launch is done, right? The product's gone to production. Then there we have to support the project for a longer time, right? Now this is where the BAU mode, the business as usual mode, or the keep business running mode comes into, and now we have put a process like changes are coming in, we fix those changes, right? What will be a dedicated capacity? How soon will we go to production? How often do we need to release? All these things, these processes, policies need to be made explicit. So Kanban is used to manage processes, right? To deliver projects, we use Scrum, but Kanban is used to manage processes. That's one thing. Next one, and it is based on the lean mindset. Kanban is based on a lean mindset. So there is a lot of flow that happens then, but in Kanban, we don't have any prescribed roles like product owner, scrum master. People will be then our companies, you may call them with those names, but Kanban doesn't specify any prescribed roles. Okay, you are a scrum master, you're a product owner. Okay, now as I told you, Kanban is used for process improvement, not for project management. So how are we efficiently improving the process to deliver working software as fast as possible? In one of the organizations where I've worked, we can have do releases every week. Right? There is a process for that, right? I've been organized with to release every month, every week. Once things have gone to production, so this is the process that's been followed. Okay. Then two important things to be remembered for Kanban is limiting the work in progress and pull system. What do you mean by limiting the work in progress? Let's try to understand that. Let's say, for example, you have two developers working on this particular post-production system for a particular client, right? So two developers are there, and at a given point of time, how many things can we work in parallel? Five things, six things, seven things? No, at most two things, because you've got two developers who can work in parallel, one by one on one task.
So limiting work in progress is at any given point of time, one person should be having only one task. That's where the productivity increases. That's where the output increases. That's what Kanban advocates. Limit the work in progress so that the output increases, the productivity increases, and then we can see better results. If you start doing multitasking, it's not going to help. There's a myth that multitasking helps. No, it doesn't help, right? People lose a lot of time in context switching. It is one of the lean waste. Okay, so limiting work in progress, like have a dedicated capacity, take work equal to that capacity. Once something is completed, it goes to the next queue. That's where the pull system comes. If one of the columns is blank and when you're working, then you pull work over there. Means there's no work, let's pull something. We have to optimize this. We'll see this in this video. Hang on, okay? So limiting work in progress and then pull system, two important things. Okay, in Kanban, capacity is considered to pull work to the next stage. Okay, how much capacity does drive, right? Unlike another task board that show only status, Kanban board is more of based on its capacity, this work is coming in. Okay, so this is a sample Kanban board in front of you. I have given an example of a login feature wherein there is a story for login, user story for password policy, or two-factor authentication, and number of concurrent sessions that can be logged in at a given point of time based on number of devices, maybe web or app or whatever is decided. Okay, so that's right now. Let's take an example of say Netflix. So Netflix, you have got a login, and they have a password policy, easy password, tough password, right? And then if they want to make it more stronger, well, usually in banking applications there's two-factor authentication. But if they want to put a two-factor authentication, they can put that also. And then number of concurrent sessions, that's they're very much worried about, right? They don't want two people to sit and watch at the same time. So they have to restrict these. So these are the user stories they want to put into the product. Okay, so that's where right now. Now you see here in front of you, you see limiting working progress. You see here WIP limits as yeah, let's take this one WIP limit one, WIP limit two, to do in progress and done, right? So these are the limit in working progress which we have, right? So we can't take more work than this. Okay, so that's very limiting. WIP one means I will just have one developer at any given point of time. I can just take one story and work it out over here. I can start off with the login story and work it out over here. Once this is completed, this goes to the done, and then I'll work it out over here. Okay, so that's what it says. Now that's a Kanban mode example. Let's see next. Okay, so how do you get work done? Whenever you see a blank column, means you have to pull work. Okay, a blank column is indicator that work can be pulled from left to right. Okay, that's the main thing. Means there's no work. The person's idle. There is work. Pull work from left to right. Okay, so let's see how this board behaves. Now we have got these four stories with us. Okay, so one is one person at a time in both the things. So let's say he starts off with his work, so working on the login story. So we can't have login as well as password policy come together in Kanban. Okay, that's what Kanban says. You can't take this also and work at the same time. You can't have two stories work in parallel. Okay, Kanban doesn't advocate that. It says just take one thing because your limiting work in progress is over here. It's only one. The work in progress limit is one, so you can take only one thing. Okay, good. Okay, now let's see how this goes. Next one is, let's say this story is done, it goes to test. Okay, so again you have got only one tester, so it's going to be only one person testing. You can't have two things for testing. The moment this goes to testing, you see this blank column now. So this blank column means, as I told you, pull something over here, right? So something will come in over here now. So what is that coming? The next story, we will pull the next story developer does, that comes in over here. Okay, you see it, the password policy stories come. Okay, so he'll work on this. So moment he's completed this, it go to the next queue. Again the testing work in progress mode on. Let's say we had two people, two developers working. We could have pulled the two-factor authentication provided there's no dependency on the password policy and two-factor authentication. These are all small minor config developments having not a lot of custom development. So these are one examples, right? Okay, next one. So what happens now? Let's say the testing is done or it's gone to done. It's ready to be delivered, it's gone to customer. So what happens? Tester is free now. Again, I can pull him, give him the next work provided the development is completed. Right? That works go there. Now let's say the developers completed this blank column, I get two-factor authentication story and I start working on that. Okay, so that's what is called as limiting work in progress. Okay, now let's see how does this help. Limiting work in progress helps us increase the productivity. Okay, it helps us come do faster completion of the work. So these are the two important things. We increase the productivity and this faster completion of the work. Okay, that's the benefit. And people are not stressed out. It's a sustainable way of working. Okay, people are happy. Okay, fine. Like for example, I was working in a services company wherein we had monthly releases. So they came back and told, okay, when you've got one developer who's working on this, 160 hours of work is going to take. No, sorry, we can't take 160 hours of work. Okay, we are just going to take 120 hours because we have to sit and look into the QA, we have to attend the calls, right? So we limited the work in progress amount also like 120 hours a month, and then we started delivering because a lot of time goes into the meetings and discussions and testing, right? So productive work, 120 hours of effort is what we decided to take in, and we took that. So limiting work in progress is important, right? So for retail kind of projects, for managed capacity projects, use Kanban. It helps you a lot. Okay, so why limit work in progress again? So if you have too many things in work in progress, no returns until product is accepted. Let's say 6 things are work in progress, not in one is gone out. So what's the return? Okay, too many tasks in parallel decrease the ROI. Then too many things work in progress, you don't know what are the bottlenecks, where what is stuck where, who's doing what. Then risk in form of rework. Lot of too many things work in progress, lot of rework is also going to happen. Okay, WIP probability will be higher for a rework. Okay, if there are too many things in rework, so in work in progress, the rework will be higher. Okay, understand this because you're not figuring out things, you're not testing things, you're not validating things immediately. Okay, now let's talk about Little's law. Little's law says that how long it takes to complete a work is directly proportional to how much work is in progress. If there are 5 things in the work in progress queue, right, then that's a work in progress. How long will it take to complete the work? Once you complete the 5 things. So let's say 5 things is going to take 5 days. Okay, all those things. So it's going to take 5 things taking 5 days. How long? 5 days. 5 things is that. Let's say we had just one thing work in progress. It takes only one day. Immediately next day it can be used. That is the beauty. Understand this. Okay. Next. So how to use Kanban to improve processes for software development? So we have got this process like define, design, build, test, and deploy. So how does this work in Kanban? So everything this is two concepts of cycle time and lead time. Cycle time is the time it takes to do one particular task or activity, like defining things. Okay, I need like one day to analyze. Design, again, I have to design the solution. It takes like one day. Then building might take say 3 days, right? Testing might say take one day, and deployment might say half a day or one day. So this is the cycle time to do a particular activity based on the size of the work. Okay, lead time is the total time it takes to deliver the working software to the customer. Understand these two differences. Cycle time is the work it takes to do activity. 4 or 5 cycle times together will give you a lead time. Okay, getting it? Good. Now, how do we limit work in progress? Now, in front of you, you are seeing define, design, build, test, deploy. So the people that we have in front of us are, let me just use a highlighter. Okay, so in the define, we have got 2 people. In define things are 2 people. Designing things again 2. So this is a limiting work in progress. Building we have got 6. Okay, testing we have got just one tester, right? Deployment there will be one person. So nobody's there yet nobody's defined. So how do we ensure that this is optimized? Okay, so output, what will be the output, right? So before that, understand what is the output or what is an output. Output is the velocity or the effort that comes out of it, right? So the output can be increased. People think we're just adding more people, right? No, that's not it. If you limit work in progress, the working software output will be increased, right? So having more things in working progress, just 1 or 2 things are there equal to number of people we have, then the output is better. Okay, so that's called as a concept called as throughput. Throughput is working progress by cycle time. We already saw what is cycle time. Cycle time duration it takes to do one particular task or activity. Okay, now you see here. Now we are now optimizing the flow. We're managing the flow. So we saw 6 people earlier. in build and test. Now we did a run through of one sprint, and we understood that okay, within 10 days this is what's happening. So we are now saying okay, let's make the build and test as four, build as four, testing as two, and define design two is fine. So every time one thing moves from left to right, we are ensuring something else is there. Let's say from design two it becomes one. It's open for one more thing. Something from define can be pulled in if it's ready. Okay, that's a managed flow. So build and test four are there. Once something goes to testing, we can again pull one thing to build over here, right? So build we have got four. Once it goes to testing, it becomes three. We can pull one from design to build. Okay, so that's the managing the flow. Very important thing is, so at every point of this, we need to implement some feedback loops. Okay, so from define to design, there is a review feedback loop. Okay, there is a meeting, we want to review something. Okay, what has been defined, the clarification, before we come up with the solution design, are we ready with that? And then again, from design to build, between the solutioning person or the BSA and the developer, there is a discussion, the tester, there is a discussion, the acceptance criteria is coming out, the user stories are elaborated, right? Then from build to test. So again, there is a discussion with developer and tester. What are unit test cases written? What are test cases written? What is the acceptance criteria? What is working? What is not working? What is the observation? So these discussions happen. Then from testing to deployment, we are ensuring that everything is going in. Customer comes back and gives a feedback. Okay, this is not working. So these are the feedback that Kanban implements. Okay, that's the inspection and adaptation trying to do what we used to do in Scrum, kind of, right? So that's it's going to help us. So those are the implementing of feedback loops. Okay, so that's about the process flow in Kanban. Now I want to give you a mnemonic to remember the 5 Kanban principles. So what do we see in front of me? We see a virtual machine, right? And virtual machines are there. People give 1 terabyte free space. Yahoo is giving that. Google, if you pay them 2,000 rupees, you're getting like 2 terabyte free space, right? So many companies are there who give a lot of space to use. But again, there is a limit. They say unlimited, but there is a limit to it. Okay, limit. So what I'm talking, these virtual machines have a limit, right? So what the mnemonic I want you to remember is, I have put it on a flashcard, VM limits. Okay, so remember that every virtual machine has some limit of data that can go. Okay, it cannot be like infinite. Okay, remember this VM limits is the mnemonic which you're having. Okay, so V stands for visual. Kanban is a very visual process. So visual flow, right? We saw the board, things from left to right. We are seeing what is work in progress, what is limiting work in progress, what is in test, what is in development, how things are moving from left to right. So it's very visual. That's the first principle. Next thing is make process policies explicit. One of the principles is, so you make process policies like, okay, fine, we are gonna write the acceptance criteria. We are gonna follow the user stories written in a particular format. Every time updates are there, people are putting their comments, right? The test trails and the test cases will be added into Jira. Everybody will update the Jira. We'll put the dates on the Jira. We are using this Jira board or the Kanban flow from left to right, right? And everything. So we are making some explicit process and policies. We'll meet every day and have discussions, right? So these process and policies should be made explicit with the team. That's the next principle. So VM. The next one is limit. So limit in work in progress, we saw how it helps. We limit the work in progress, it's going to give us more output, more productivity. And improve collaboration, right? So we want people to work together. So Kanban says we have to improve collaboratively. So we have got so many reviews and implementing feedback, which you saw in the previous slide. People have to work together. Collaboration is the key to success in Agile. Becoming self-organizing and developing collaborating teams makes Agile successful. Okay. Then manage the flow. So we see like where it can be optimized. We need more developers or more testers. Let's optimize it in that way. Okay, manage the flow. So remember this mnemonic to VM limits. So you can make a flashcard, write the question in front, answer at the back. As I always say, write VM limits over here, and V stands for visual, M stands for Mac, process policy explicit, L stands for limiting working progress, I stands for improve collaboration, M stands for manage flow. So this is what we do with VM limit. It's flashcard for you to remember. So mnemonic is there, a flashcard is there. Use flashcards to remember things. Always remember flashcards. You put question in front, answer at the back. When you retrieve information, it stays with you for a longer time rather than just reading it. Okay, when you see the question in front and you see BV is what I'm not able to recollect, no problems, turn back and see visual. So that's where it retains more. Every time you test your brain, the retention increases. Okay, so that's the mnemonic you have. Now let's see a mind map on this. So there is visual. We spoke about visual Kanban board. How it's visual. Things move from left to right, and then after that, make process policies explicit. We spoke about that. Then limit in work in progress. We don't want people to be juggling with many things, doing multitasking. Then after improve collaborative, right? Everybody has to work together within the team, outside of the team, with the customer. So that's very important. Then finally, manage flow. Now let's put a mind map on this. So Kanban, as I told you, we explained all of this in the video. So limiting, making visual, make process policy explicit, limit work in progress, improve collaboratively, and manage flow. Draw this mind map. Use the flashcard and mnemonic. Right, you'll remember this. So watch this video a couple of times. I'm very sure you'll understand the Kanban flow. If you have any questions or doubts, put it in the comment section. I'll get back to you. Thank you for watching my video. This is Arham Faraaz. Bye-bye. Please do like, subscribe, and share this video. Thank you.
When I joined back IT industry as a project manager, I was put on a project. It was a development project. At that time, I didn't know was this actually a project being done in Kanban or Scrum. Most of the times, many people don't know are we using Kanban or are we using Scrum. I have seen even executives or senior leaders talking, let's use anything, right? Doesn't make sense, doesn't make a difference. No, we have two different methodologies in Agile, two frameworks. One is Scrum framework, one is a Kanban framework. Both of these are different. We need to understand when should we use Scrum, when should we use Kanban. In this video, I'll be talking to you about the differences between Scrum and Kanban, the similarities between Scrum and Kanban, and then when to use Scrum and when to use Kanban. Okay, let's get started. We will go slowly step by step and understand these things. In Scrum, we have Scrum boards. Similarly, in Kanban, we have Kanban boards. Oh, like what? Both of them are similar, right? That's what we are saying. Both are similar. No, there are few caveats. In Scrum, we don't define a work in progress limit on the board, whereas in Kanban, we do that. Let's try to understand these things one by one. Okay, let's get started off. Okay, in Scrum, when do we use Scrum? We use Scrum when we have to work on projects. Let's say we are building a software, a website, or a cart, right? A shopping cart, a new feature is coming, right? That might go for like 2 to 3 months. Okay, or you're working on different use case itself. So all these are projects. So projects need dedicated focus, dedicated people, right? There's a lot of money involved. There could be penalty clauses also. So in these kind of situations, we use Scrum. So Scrum is mainly used for projects. How about Kanban? Now Kanban we use when we have a continuous flow of work. Kanban is used when the flow of work is continuous, right? The kind of contract we sign for Kanban projects is like a retainer project or managed capacity, wherein we have continuous work that comes in, and we decide, okay, fine, let's go and keep doing this. Work keeps coming continuously, we keep doing continuously. Okay, so if the work is continuously coming in, then we use Kanban. If we have got a dedicated, a unique project to be delivered, then we use Scrum. Let's try to understand what are the benefits of using Scrum. In Scrum, we will have dedicated resources, right? So the advantages of this dedicated resource is that we have a product owner, we have a Scrum Master, we have a development team. So product owner, this dedicated role says that, okay, I am the one who's going to get the understanding from the user and tell you what needs to be built. Product owner prioritizes in Scrum, right? He is the one who comes and gives us what the user needs. He helps us in elaborating the stories, understanding the stories, what we have to build, and he helps us in prioritization, he or she, whoever, right? So product owner does that. Similarly, Scrum Master is that role that helps us kind of follow the entire Agile principles, the Scrum values, the Scrum pillars, ensures he removes the impediments, ensures that we are kind of getting the output. So this is what the Scrum Master does. Similarly, development team is there to build the software. It could be the developers, testers, or the QA, or the designers, right? So we have these three dedicated roles in Scrum. In Kanban, we don't have such dedicated roles.
In Kanban, there are no dedicated roles. Okay, people just come and they just work. Right, so there's a continuous work coming. You got developers, testers, people are working. We don't have dedicated PO, we don't have dedicated Scrum Master. We don't have we just have developers and testers who come and keep working. You can have a project manager to look into this, or an agile coach look into this and deliver things. Okay, so that's what happens in Kanban. Now Scrum. In Scrum, we have got iterations which are like time box iterations. 10-day sprint, right? At the end of 10 days, you're going to get some output, some valuable software. Okay, so Scrum says there are iterations. Let's say the project is going for like 1 year. So you'll have 10 days iterations, right? For every 2 weeks. So you'll have like 26 sprints in the year, right? If you're taking like 2 week sprint. Okay, so that the iteration doesn't change. The 10 never becomes 9 days, the 10 never becomes 11 days. It is always 10 days. That is this time box sprints in Scrum, right? So similarly for in Kanban, we don't have a time box sprint. It is continuous work. We could deliver things after 3 days also, 5 days also, 10 days also, right? Based on the size of the work. So Kanban talks about continuity. How soon can I deliver? So the speed of delivering software is faster in Kanban than in Scrum. Sprint planning. So in Scrum, we do a lot of sprint planning. Okay, in Scrum, we do a lot of sprint planning. Similarly, in Kanban, the planning is less. Right? For a 10-day sprint in Scrum, we will take at least 4 hours to plan the sprint, break down the user stories, decompose the stories, make it into smaller stories, put the task, estimate the stories, and see who's going to do what. Right? So we do so much of planning in sprint just to meet the sprint goal because it's going towards the project goal. Right? But in Kanban, we don't have any such kind of planning. We see what's in backlog. If somebody is free and available, we do it. Okay? So that's how it is done. In Scrum, there is no scope creep. In Scrum, we will not accept anything extra in the sprint. Once the sprint is locked, that's the work you're going to do. If new work comes into the sprint, then we'll have to kind of move out some already completed work and get equal amount of work. Such as something which for 2 days, something which is supposed to deliver for 2 days will be moved out. So there is no room for scope creep in Scrum, in sprints. Okay. You might say, Arham, we are talking about Agile, right? So why aren't we accepting change in the last minute? Yes, we are accepting change, but we cannot bend time and space because of Agile, right? So something has to go out. Okay, so you prioritize. You tell them prioritize. What should I do? I'll do this, but this has to go out. Only then we get the results. We have Agile believe in sustainable way of working. We can't have like too much of work crammed into a sprint to be done. The quality goes for a toss, right? Then you'll not have a proper working software. Okay, in Scrum, there is no scope creep at all. That's a big difference. And then in Kanban, it is pretty flexible. Okay, we are taking change. So let's say after 3-4 days, comes like guys, we want this to be done. Okay, fine, we'll do it. We have a contract. We're going to work for a year. You tell us what needs to be done, we'll do it. You come and prioritize things, right? So we'll do it and we'll send you the bill. That's it. Okay, so Kanban is more flexible if you compare to Scrum. So output in a Scrum is released once a sprint. Scrum, the output has been released once a sprint, whereas in Kanban, the output gets released quite often. Okay, the Kanban, we can also give you the output after 3 days. Once the development testing is done in 3 days, we can give to UAT, then move to production immediately. We don't have to wait for like the 10-day sprint also, right? So that's the beauty of Kanban. You can put things faster outside, right? You can do multiple releases in 10-day sprint also in Kanban. Then Scrum uses Scrum boards. Scrum boards don't have work in progress limits, whereas Kanban has got work in progress limits. So what is work in progress limits? Just try to understand this. I've also recorded a video on this. So what is work in progress limits? It will be somewhere over here. You can go click on the link and find out. So on Kanban, the work in progress limit plays a very, very vital and important role. The work in progress limit says that if you have got 3 people, so the work that comes into for these 3 developers to be done will not be more than 3 things at one point of time. Everybody works on just one thing. We are not going to have one person doing 2 things. There is no multitasking over here. Okay, so Kanban says that we limit the work in progress, and based on this limit is what we're going to give you the output. Okay, the work in progress limit helps us in increasing the productivity. The productivity increases because people are focused on one thing. There is no switching of tasks. There is no loss of context switching. There is no time loss in context switching. So work in progress limit helps in that. right? If you have, what happens if you have like 4 or 5 things in work in progress at a given point of time, just 2 developers, you are not sure like what is completed. Everybody is working in parallel. Then no output is delivered, and nobody is going to get value immediately. You're not sure about where are the things stuck. The bottlenecks are not come up yet, right? There could be risk of reworks of many things in work in progress. Okay, so work in progress limit is the beauty of Kanban that restricts extra work to be taken, right? So we just focus on what needs to be done, we deliver, and that helps us increase the productivity. Next, we have velocity, right? So the KPIs which you have in Scrum is the velocity. We are going to measure like how many story points are we going to deliver in Scrum. Similarly, in Kanban, we have a dedicated capacity. Based on the capacity, we're going to commit something. Okay, so Scrum has got velocity, Kanban has got capacity. We will now look into the differences based on the pillars of Scrum and the pillars of Kanban, the principles they call them, right? Principles in Kanban. So Scrum has got 3 pillars, Kanban has got 5 principles. Okay, so we'll talk about the first 3 pillars in Scrum. The first pillar is inspection. So Scrum says that we have to do inspection, right? So we inspect and we adapt. So we inspect during the sprint daily scrums, we inspect during the sprint demos, we inspect during the retrospectives, right? We inspect and we do a course correction. Now we want to adapt, right? So we inspect in daily scrums, okay, fine. We had agreed to do like 3 stories yesterday, right? But the 3 developers which were working, we were just able to complete 2 and one was still open. So we asked like, what's happening? Why is this one still open? Where is the roadblock? What do you want me to go and remove this? Or Scrum Master going to ask. Are there any impediments? Do you need some clarification? Where is that? Do you need some help, right? So this inspection happens every day in Scrum, right? So that's the first pillar of Scrum. So you inspect and you do course correction and then you adapt. Right now, adaptation. Adaptation is like when the sprint demo happens, we get the feedback from customers. Right now, we are trying to find a new way to ensure that the feedback is worked upon. Right, so it could be in the next sprint. There will be some defects raised. We'll close all of those in the next sprint. Right, so we're trying to adapt. So this happens very frequently. Every 10 days, if it was a 2-week sprint, this is happening. Right, so adaptation. Then after that, you have got transparency. The one of the biggest pillar of Scrum is transparency. Everything is open. Everybody knows who's working on what. The sprint goal is transparent. Everything was put on sprint on the Jira board. We know the developer. We know the estimates. We know when is it starting. We know when is it ending. We know what is the story detail. What is the acceptance criteria. We know what is the definition of done. We know the test cases. Everything is in front of everybody. So there's no hiding over here, right? So everybody's stuck. We get to know where are the delays happening. So this is the beauty of Scrum, right? You inspect, you adapt, and there is transparency. These are the 3 pillars of Scrum. Okay. Now let's talk about the 5 pillars of Kanban, right? So the first pillar of Kanban is visual. So Kanban says everything is visual, right? We have a visual board wherein we can see right in front of the team what's happening, what was in to do yesterday, what is in progress today, and what is getting done. So in progress could be like development, developing progress, QA in progress, and UAT in progress, right? It could be anything. And then it's like once the valuable software is available to the customer. So they want to keep it visual. So Kanban boards help because things are in front of us. It's a one way of transparency, right? Everybody sees, okay, in front of everybody knows who's working, who's idle, when is the column free, and when we can put more tasks or more work to be done. We know who's idle, who can be start worked upon immediately. So Kanban principle is that visual flow. The first one is visual flow. The second one is Kanban says we manage the flow. We optimize it based on the amount of work we have. We decide like, do we need 2 people, 3 people? Okay, in development we need 2 developers. In testing we just need 1 tester. Right? We optimize it. So we're managing the flow to get more output frequently. Let's say we've got a lot of tasks, so a lot of work with us. Then we go and request the project manager, give us 1 more developer. We need to close all of this immediately and give it to the customer. Right? Then Kanban also, the third principle is it says limit WIP, limit work in progress. Kanban says you limit the work in progress so that your productivity increases. I spoke about this in the previous 2-3 minutes also about limiting work in progress. Limiting work in progress helps us kind of remove roadblocks, find out the risk areas, right, and increase the productivity, churn out software faster. Right, valuable software can churn out faster if you limit the work in progress based on the capacity, okay, of the team. Then
After that, the next principle is improve collaboration. Kanban says it believes in improving collaboration. That's one of the principles. So people have to work very closely. They have to have a lot of discussions. So what we do is every time from the define phase to the design phase, there is discussions, the review meeting, clarifications are done between the users and the product owners or the solutioning guys. Then from the design phase to the build phase, and again we have got a lot of explanations happening. People are trying to understand what needs to be built, right? So the solutioning guys or the product or the product owners are explaining things to the developer between the design and the build phase. Then from build to testing, when it goes, the developers are explaining the QA folks what is the acceptance criteria, how have they built it, what are the unit test cases, and the QA gives feedback, is the rework. There's a lot of discussion that happens. Then QA completes, it goes to the final UAT sign off, then again discussions with the users or the customers to get the UAT sign off, and then finally goes to production, right? So a lot of discussions happen. So they have to have a lot of collaborations, and not just within the team, cross-functional collaboration with the support team, with the DevOps team, right, or with the so customer support team, customer success team, right? So all the teams have to collaborate with the pre-sales team and different whatever teams are there, right? So there has to be collaboration. So the fourth point is it has to improve collaboration, is what Kanban says. That is the fourth principle. The fifth principle says it is make processes and policies explicit. In Kanban, we go and make the processes and policies explicit, saying that okay, how will we write the user stories? What syntax are we going to follow? And then after that, what should how the story should be? Should it follow invest criteria or not? And then after that, what should be the maximum amount of size of stories? When do we break a story? Then how often will we update the status of the stories? Right. Then after that, we are also talking about like who's going to do the updates. Then how often should we update the comments on the stories, right? Then when do I change the status of the stories, right? So then who will pick it in this status? So all these things are explicitly told. Then we'll capture what all data in the Jira, right? Will we capture the acceptance criteria? We'll capture the test cases. We'll capture unit test cases. Will we have the test trails over here? Will we connect this to the DevOps team, the CI/CD pipeline? All these processes and policies are made explicit in Kanban. That's your fifth principle. That helps them to churn out software faster. Let's see the similarities between Scrum and Kanban. What are the similarities between Scrum and Kanban? So, both Scrum and Kanban have visual boards. Scrum has got Scrum boards, Kanban has got Kanban boards. Both Scrum and Kanban have WIP limits, right? So, Kanban has work in progress limits, whereas Scrum has got velocity, a dedicated velocity, dedicated effort for a sprint. It is time boxed. So both these things help them kind of increase the productivity and deliver faster. Then both Scrum and Kanban advocate high collaboration. There is intense collaboration, right? We have to talk a lot. We have to work as a team. We have to meet the goals that we want to achieve, right? Both has got high collaboration. Then both Scrum and Kanban have pull system. Once the work is done from development, it moves to testing. Once testing is done, moves to UAT, and production, right? So we're pulling things from left to right. Okay, so both Scrum and Kanban have got pull systems. Finally, both Scrum and Kanban break complex tasks in smaller tasks. Features are broken down into stories into smaller tasks, and then try to deliver that, right? They decompose it. Finally, both Scrum and Kanban deliver fast. They're very fast, right? We want fast delivery, 10 days sprint, or like 3 days, 4 days development in Kanban. So these are the similarities between Scrum and Kanban. Now, let's try and understand when do I use Scrum, when do I use Kanban. If you're working on projects, right, projects which you have to kind of achieve some big goals, right, but there is a project, because projects have got penalties on them, projects have got deadlines to be made, projects have got right ROI for the organization, they are solving problems, right? If you are working on projects, we will use Scrum. If there is just continuous work, if the project is gone live and then you want to support the customer for the next 2-3 years, right, then we'll use Kanban. Okay. Similarly, if there is a need for continuous improvement of the system, if you have to do continuous improvement, right, then we'll use Scrum. Like for example, you made the software, you told no, this is not doing great, let's kind of improve it. You use Scrum. Then this logic is fetching too much of memory from somewhere, let's kind of optimize it, we'll use Scrum, right? Okay, this has got like 7 to 8 clicks, let's optimize it, let's make it 3 clicks, we'll use Scrum, right? So this is a very back-end logic, very complicated. We have to ensure that we do the proper regression and all those things, we'll use Scrum. Okay. Now, if it's just one-time effort or CR after we have gone live or a post-production bug or something, use Kanban. Done. Okay. Then, if you since we are working on projects will need a lot of discipline and planning, right? If you want to have a detailed discipline, a rigorous discipline of ensuring people meet like rituals, because you want to put discipline because you want to get the output. You don't want to miss things, right? Then you will use Scrum, because Scrum has got sprint planning, daily Scrum, retrospective, sprint demos, then retrospectives. This repeats for every sprint. Imagine you've got a 20-week, 20 sprint project. So 20 times there is a lot of high discipline because you want to get the output. You don't want to miss the deadline. If you miss the deadline, it could be a loss to you. It could be a penalty clause loss, or it could be an ROI loss, or it could be a go-to-market loss, right? So you have to put in a lot of discipline. Then you use Scrum because of the value that you're gonna get outside or what is at stake. No. So if you just now need to do continuous work and just intermittent planning, use Kanban. Okay. Then after that, if you since you're working on projects, if you want to have dedicated roles, then you use Scrum. Right? Product owner, Scrum master, development team. If you just want to work with some experts, some good developers, then use Kanban. Right? So those are the things. And then finally, the last and the most important thing, since we are working on projects in Scrum, there will be high stakeholder involvement. If you see there is high stakeholder involvement, use Scrum methodology, right? Every day people want to meet, understand things, then use Scrum. If you think it's not high stakeholder, just once a week update is fine, then you use Kanban. Okay, so these are the points when to use Scrum, when to use Kanban. So in this video, we learned about what are the differences between Scrum and Kanban. Then we learned about the similarities between Scrum and Kanban. We also saw the differences based on the pillars and based on the principles between Scrum and Kanban. And then finally, we looked into how to use Scrum and Kanban. Watch this video a couple of times, you'll get an idea. Please do like and subscribe to my channel. This is Arham Faraaz. I wish you all the best. Thank you. Bye-bye. What is Agile? Can you please help us understand Agile? Can you please give an introduction to Agile? Can you help us understand what is Agile mindset? What is Agile manifesto? How is Agile different from Scrum, XP and Kanban? I keep getting these questions again and again. Can you give us a single page view of what is exactly Agile? Fine. To answer all those questions, I have made this video in which I'll be sharing you mind maps and block diagrams and understanding Agile. Not a lot of theory, not a lot of written sentences. It's just flows, mind maps, so you understand. I'll also help you understand how our sprints run in Scrum, XP, and Kanban. Okay, stay on this video, this introduction to Agile video. You'll understand a lot. If you are a first time learner of what is Agile, if you are just starting to learn about Agile, if you are in your college trying to understand about Agile, if you're a working professional who wants to understand Agile and implement in Agile, then this video is for you. Let's get started. Before the information technology era began, we had the industrial era, in which we had industries working, in which problem solving was quite visible to people. It was a different way of working, it was quite supervisor's way of working, right? Getting things done by ordering people. But once the information technology era came, right, the way of working had to be changed. People wanted to deliver products faster. They wanted to be the competition. They want to go to market faster. They want to adopt things. Software engineering was complicated. Problems are not visible in front of the eyes to people. People have to debug issues, right? To answer all these things, right? To deliver value to customer, faster deliver value to customer. Then find out different ways of improving the way we are working, the quality to be improved, the defects to be reduced, right? Seeing all these things, right? The agile way of working came into existence. In 2001, 17 experts from IT industry got together in Utah City and made the Agile Manifesto for software development. They created 4 values and 12 principles. Okay. Now, why do we need Agile? Because Agile is for knowledge works project. Because things are quite uncertain. We are not aware of what exactly is that we have to build until and unless we are going to build it. Right, so we just know the requirement. How is it going to get used by the users and all? You're not going to understand immediately. So for that kind of working, we need Agile. We need to use Agile. Okay, so
In Agile, work is invisible. You can't see what's the problem in front of your eyes. You have to go to the back end, see the logs, debug, understand and solve the issues. So it's like invisible work trying to fix here, right? Then changing requirements. Even the last minute changes come and we have to address those changes. High quality, reduction of defects. So all these things called out for Agile. Like when people want to innovate a lot, so they wanted a different way of working. So they wanted to come with new methodology called Agile. Right? Agile means being fast and flexible. Agile is a mindset. So Agile is not a way of working, but it is a mindset. It is a set of values and behaviors. There are 4 values and 12 principles, which are like the 12 behaviors which people need to exhibit. Right? So Agile is used to develop complex softwares. Maybe like new launch of products also we use Agile. Mainly for developing complex softwares, we use Agile. Agile has got 3 frameworks: Scrum, Kanban, and XP. So these are the quite famous frameworks in Agile. So these frameworks work in a certain way, follow certain practices which use the principles, the behaviors, and live the values, the 4 values of Agile. So the framework uses the mindset to deliver softwares in a nice way. So from this, there are 3 frameworks. First one is the Scrum at very high level. Scrum is used to deliver projects. Kanban is used to improve processes. Once something's gone to production, how can we deliver value fast? Kanban is used for that. And third is XP. XP is used to deliver softwares by improving the way we are coding, the programming, making more scalable. So these are 3 different frameworks. They have different ways of working. Okay, so let's go ahead and understand more about agile and complex software development. So what is the focus when building a complex software? The first and foremost focus is delivering value to the customer. How soon can we deliver value to customer? The faster we will deliver the value to customer, the better is it, right? Then faster delivery is the second thing. Giving the customer something minimal, small use case that can be used immediately is called the value. That's called the minimum viable product. And for developing complex softwares, we don't wait for the long time to deliver this. We give this immediately. A small portion which can be used ASAP by the customer. Then quality is of utmost importance. There are different ways how to improve quality in software development. So complex software quality is also very key. So that's also focus of Agile. Then people become a very big focus in Agile. Going back to the first value in Agile, individuals and interactions over process and tools give more value. Right? So people have got a lot of value in Agile, and the way people work, the way they are treated is very, very important. Then the amount focus of Agile on building complex software is to decrease the time to market and decrease the defects and then deliver a valuable software. So these are the focuses of Agile software when working with Agile software development, when working with complex softwares. Now let's try to understand and learn about Agile way of working with, which is an empirical process. So Agile software development, developing software in Agile way of working, the process is called empirical process. Empirical process is one in which you learn by doing things. It is not based on the past experiences, what we had done earlier, right? In empirical process, we are learning by doing things based on the observations. Okay, this sprint we did like this. 5 people were able to deliver 40 story points. That's the first learning we get. And the next sprints also start working on that. So it is by learning by doing, and we do a course correction, right? After every sprint, we're getting a feedback from the customer in the demo, and we take a course correction. So we do 3 important things in the empirical process that form the foundation, right? Inspection, adaptation, and transparency. So these 3 things are very, very important in the empirical process because things are emergent. Things are not evident in front of you. So you have to go in the empirical way of working. Okay, so when things become emergent, things become uncertain, we go for agile of working, and then we have used empirical process in which 3 important pillars are inspection, adaptation, transparency. Now, for inspection, we have got these Scrum ceremonies or Scrum meetings, right? We have got the daily Scrum, we have got the sprint planning, we have got the sprint reviews and sprint inspection. These are all for inspections, right? Sprint demos, sorry, and retrospectives. Then for transparency's sake, what did we add in? We added in the artifacts, product backlog. Everybody knows what is the product backlog. Then sprint backlog. Everybody knows what is the sprint backlog. And then after product increment. Everybody knows what is the product increment. And then we've got these Scrum boards in front of us, or the task boards in front of us, which come and say, okay, everybody knows who's working on what is the state of the story, what test cases are added on that. So everybody knows everything. That's for the transparency. Then adaptation. So inspection and transparency don't work well if you don't adapt things. We have to do a course correction. After the retrospectives, we have got some action items for the next sprint, and then we're going to take those action items. So this is the way of working in empirical process, and it's quite iterative. Like once we start adapting things, every iteration becomes better. Scope in Agile. How is scope treated in Agile? So scope in Agile is variable. It is flexible. Even in the last minute, people can come and change the scope. There is one principle which say we welcome change in the even late in the development. Right? So we should be welcoming that because that's important for the customer. But then we have to push out something else. We have to accommodate that in the time box of the sprint. Okay. Then after that, the product backlog. Product backlog is what is maintained in the scope. So product backlog is also emergent. Okay, and then after the stakeholder involvement on this scope to be delivered is continuous in Agile, unlike in traditional where it's high in the beginning and towards the end very less. Okay, so that's about scope in Agile. So you can see this complete mind map in front of you, which talks about the four Agile values, the Agile empirical process, the focus of Agile, and the way scope is managed in Agile. You can take a pen and paper and make a note of this. Now let's try to understand more about Agile. Now let's go ahead with the manifesto for Agile software development. Manifesto for Agile software development has got 4 values and 12 principles. Now we'll look into the 4 values. What is the first value? The first value says that we value individuals and interactions more over processes and tools. Means the conversations that are there with the people, the way people are treated when we are building the software, the way interactions are happening between the developers and the customer, right? So these are valued more to build a better software because the gap in requirement gathering or shared understanding of this story is going to impact the software more than focusing more on the process and tools. Okay, make a BRD, follow this step by step. You tell him, then get the information ABC. No, we want people to talk directly. So process and tools are important. Yes, we need the Jira software. Yes, we need the Scrum boards. Yes, we need the practices. We need the people who stand and talk in front of everything, the storyboards, right? But individuals and interactions are valued more over process and tools. So this gives the people a very good thinking, a very happy work environment also. So that's the first value, right? Individuals and interactions valued over process and tools. The next one is working software is valued more over a comprehensive documentation. Earlier we used to give deliverables, we used to do a lot of BRDs and all these things, right? So now we say that we are valuing the working software more over a comprehensive documentation, right? A software that works is more important, right? Imagine you have a mobile phone and it's not working. It has got all the apps very well. There was a point if you can't make a call from the cell phone, right? So a working software is valued more over comprehensive documentation, right? That's the second part. Yes, we do value that we need to document stories, we need to put these things, but we're not focusing a lot on that, but we are focusing on what software should work. And yes, minimal documentation, what is required will be there. It has to be there, right? So customer collaboration is valued more over contract and negotiation. If we collaborate more with customers, so we welcome change in last minute also. A change that is going to add value to the customer. That's going to kind of help the customer grow their business, increase their time to market, right? Get more response and feedback from their users, improve their ROI, right? So we need to collaborate with customer on all these things. Yes, contracts and negotiations will be there, but we'll be valuing that a little later, but we'll be valuing more on customer collaboration over contracts and negotiation. So this is very, very important. Then last value is responding to change or following a plan. So responding to change or following a plan, we have got. So in this, like, we'll welcome change in the last minute also. In the end of the sprint, will come some change, but something might go out. So we'll tell what's going to be the impact. Okay, so yes, the traditional way we used to do a lot of planning, but in Agile we do a lot of planning, with sprint planning, but we welcome changing, also respond to change or following a plan. If something new comes, it's important for the customer, will value that. So I've also recorded a video on this, on the 4 Agile values. The link should be here somewhere on my left, right? So you can please go and watch that video. The description link will be there, so you can watch in more details about the 4 values. Now let's go ahead and understand about the 12 Agile principles. 12 Agile principles. Now, I have recorded the 12 Agile principles in a single mind map so that you can get a complete view of this. So it becomes easier for you to understand what is Agile principles. There is a separate video of almost 30 minutes on these 12 Agile principles. The link is put in the description on the left over here. You can go and watch that video also with a lot of examples. This being an introduction video, I'll just introduce this Agile principles to you. Here and I'll give you a couple of examples. Okay, let's get started off. So what is the first principle of the Agile? So it says that our highest priority is to satisfy the customer with early and continuous delivery of software. Right? What is the highest priority? Is to satisfy the customer. Right? That's the first and foremost thing. So once the customer is happy, we are happy. Okay? With early and continuous delivery of software. That's the important part. The next point is that we welcome change in the requirements even late in the development. Like for example, on the 4th day of the sprint, on the 10-day sprint, on the 7th day, some changes come in. We welcome that, but then something else has to go out because Agile cannot bend time and space. We'll say we'll have to push out something. We'll do this also. So we welcome change in requirements even late in the development. That's the second principle. The third principle is that we deliver working software from a duration of 2 weeks to 4 weeks, 10 working days to 20 working days, right? So that's the fast way of delivering software. Earlier in traditional way of working, it used to be a long time. We understand about the waterfall and traditional waterfall and the agile also in next few slides, but just to give an example. So agile means fast delivery. So every 2 weeks, you're delivering some working software to the customer in production. Okay. Then the next is that business people and the developers should work together daily so that they understand the requirement better, so that we understand, have a great shared understanding and build the software in a very nice way. So many times organizations don't let the developers work directly with the business people. They are always people in the middle, but that actually slows down the ways of working. I have always believed in this principle. I've made my developers work directly with the customer so it becomes easier for them to understand what's the requirement and deliver the best software that works for them. Fifth principle says that projects are built around motivated individuals, right? People who believe more in the sprint goal than their personal goal. Okay, so this is very important. So projects are built around motivated individuals is the fifth principle, right? If people are not motivated to do the work, they're just worried of like what's important for them rather than the sprint goal, because the delivery is owned by the development team. So the sprint goal should also be owned by them. So that's more important for them to own the sprint goal. Okay. Then face-to-face communication. The next one is the best way of information sharing. The sixth principle is that information sharing is done with face-to-face way of communication. The best way of communication is face-to-face way of communication. So that's very, very important, right? It always helps when people are working with each other in front to front, right? When they share information face-to-face and standing in front of a sprint board and talking to each other, it's much more beneficial than just doing a Zoom recording and talking, or maybe just putting Slack messages, right? That's helpful. Then the seventh one is that working software is a primary measure of success. A software that works, that's the best way to measure your success. Okay, that's very, very important. No wonder how many features you added, no wonder how many back-end logics you added, but if it's not working, it's not going to help. The primary measure of success is the working software. Okay, then after that, both the sponsors, the developers, and the business people should all work together in a sustainable way. Like for example, they have to figure out what is the best way of output that we can deliver each sprint on sprint, right? So this is very, very important, right? So it's like 40 story points, 30 story points. So 30 cannot become 45 story points in the next sprint, right? That's not a sustainable. 30 can become 32 or 31. Right, so that's a sustainable way of working. So that's very, very important. The principle says that the eighth principle is that sponsors, developers, business people, everybody should work together in a sustainable way of working. Then very, very important, when you're building code softwares, we have to pay specific attention to technical excellence, right? So we have to have those pieces of complex code broken down in small units so that it can be scalable later. That's the ninth principle. 10th one is that simplicity is the art of maximizing the work not done. Okay, that's very, very important and helpful. So what we are not building is more important, right? Because we don't waste our time on building something that's not needed with the customer, right? So simplicity is the art of maximizing the work not done. So they just don't give features to customers which they don't want. Okay. The next thing is like projects are built around having self-organizing teams, right? So everybody does their own work. We don't do assignment of tasks in Agile like traditional way of project management. Agile people are expected to be self-organized. They have to pick up their work and they work on their own work. Okay. Next thing is that at regular intervals, we kind of review and we retrospect and fix the way we are working. That helps us in adaptation of work. So these were the 12 principles of Agile. The mind map is in front of you. You can take a pen and paper, make a note, draw the images. So mind maps actually help you in gathering a lot of information using both your right side and left side of your brain, and it helps you in retention for a longer time. In this video, you will see many mind maps, 4 or 5 more mind maps to understand more about Agile, about Scrum, XP, and Kanban. Okay. Now let's try to understand what is waterfall way of working. Right, the traditional way. In waterfall way of working, we had initially plan the project, maybe a couple of months, then design analyze for another 1 month, develop for another 2 to 3 months, right? Or maybe more. We were doing 1 month of planning, at least we'll develop for like 4 or 5 months. And then after that, test it for 2 more months. And then after 1 year of doing all of this, towards the end of the year, you see some working software in production, which you're not happy with. Then a lot of rework happens. You have to fix so many things, right? So this itself takes a duration of 6 months to 1 year. This was the predictive life cycle in which you know the requirements, you need to know the scope, and you build this, right? So this was a traditional way of working. So this used to take a lot of time, 6 months to a year to deliver a software in production, right? So this is actually going to inhibit a lot of go-to-market time for the customers. Then we came up with the agile way of working. In agile, it's very nice. Just have a look. It should be there in front of your screen, right? So in agile, we have an iterative way of working. So there are iterations in sprints. So every 2 to 4 weeks is a sprint, right? In that, you'll do the entire cycle of plan, analyze, design, develop, test, and then put to production. So entire cycle happens within just 2 to 4 weeks. You don't have to wait for 1 year to deploy the software. Okay, so that's the beauty of agile, right? So small iterations, some small value. If you have got a use case, or a use case, a small part can be used out immediately. That is deployed to production immediately in a sprint. Okay, so that's the benefit of agile. So so agile, when we use this for uncertain way of scope. When the scope is uncertain, we use agile way of working. Okay, now we want you to understand the triangle, the triple constraint triangle, time, cost, and scope for waterfall and agile. How is it different for both of these? Let's try to understand that. Okay, so few of the constraints are fixed, few of the constraints are variable. In a waterfall model for a fixed price project, when the scope is fixed, okay, then you use a waterfall model, the traditional way of working, because the requirements are clear. You know what needs to be built. You can do it in that way. You can also make this clear requirements in a hybrid way of working by adopting agile practices and delivering the software in the traditional way. Okay. Now, if the scope is fixed, you use waterfall model and a fixed price contract. Time and cost can be variable. You can take the $10,000 to the same work, or $11,000 to no problem. You can take 6 months or 7 months to do the same work, but the scope is fixed. That's the waterfall model. In agile, the scope is variable, but time and cost is fixed. Time box sprints, cost is fixed. For this much money, this much scope will do. You're changing scope, no problem. Something else will be added, same amount of work. Something for 10 days will remove, something for 10 days will be added. Okay, but the time and the cost will remain fixed in agile. We usually use time and material projects to run agile projects. Time and material contracts to run agile projects. Okay, that's very, very important. It could be asked on some of your certification exams like PMP or CSM also. Now, I quickly want to run through you with few agile terms. Okay, before I get into the sprints, iterations of Scrum, XP, Kanban, and all these things, I wanted to understand few of these terms over here with us. Okay, so what are these terms? First one, product owner. So product owner is a person who works with the business users and gets the user requirements. He maintains the product backlog. He is the guy responsible for increasing the ROI, and he is the guy who manages the backlog and prioritizes the backlog. This is the first role. Next one is Scrum Master. A Scrum Master is a person who ensures that people learn about Agile, who ensures that he manages a sprint, and he ensures that people are actually held accountable for what they are doing, right? And he also promotes Agile in the organization. Okay, he is a promoter of Scrum, he is a promoter of Agile, he ensures that he facilitates all the meetings. That's it, Scrum Master. Next is the development team. Development team is a set of developers, testers, and designers who are working together to give the delivery of working software. These are the people who are responsible for the software delivery. Then sprint iteration. Sprint or iteration is a time box. It could be 10 days, 15 days, 20 days, working days. Okay, this is a fixed time box for every iteration. If you have got five sprints, each sprint is 10 days, so it's going to take 50 days to deliver all the 5 sprints. If the work is more, 10 days sprint cannot become 11 days. If the work is less, 10 days sprint cannot become 5 days. Okay, time box is sprint. So sprint is also known as iteration. Then let's talk about some artifacts. Okay, sprint product backlog. Product backlog is a list of requirements that are needed to build the product. It is a big list of requirements that is needed to build the product, maintained by the product owner, prioritized by the product owner. A subset of this is sprint backlog. You do a planning meeting and come up with a sprint backlog. The development team says, yes, we can build this in the next 10 days of sprint. That is called as a sprint backlog. It is a subset. Okay, it's a subset of the product. Product backlog is this, sprint backlog is this. Okay. Then after that, you have got product increment. The working software that is delivered at the end of the sprint is called as a product increment. It is the sum of all the old increments given. Okay, clear? Now, planning meetings. We have got sprint planning meeting. A sprint planning meeting is one in which you work with the product owner and you and the development team and the scrum master together. Everybody come estimate the stories, they prioritize what needs to be done, and then they start decomposing the stories, make details of the stories, right? And add the stories on the sprint board and then estimate them and then deliver this, make a plan for this and deliver the stories over the next 10 days. That's what's happening in sprint planning meeting. Daily stand-up meeting is one we come and inspect and check everybody. Everybody just said what we did yesterday, what we plan to do today, and what are the roadblocks. So this is the daily stand-up that happens every day for 15 minutes. In daily stand-ups, you don't go and start working on issue resolution. You don't try to debug issues in daily stand-up. Okay. Then after that, you have got your sprint demos. Sprint demos are held at the end of the sprints to demo the working software. Okay, it's an inspection, and here you have got business users, product owners, everybody come to check what you have built. Finally, you've got retrospective is a way of working on the software that has been fixed. Is this software fine or not is decided by the retrospective, right? So, I mean, you're gonna in the retrospective, you're gonna decide like how is the what did you do right, what did you do wrong, and what are you gonna do better in the next sprint. What are the action items? That's what happens in retrospectives. Okay, so these are some of the terms you need to remember before we get into the more details. Now, let us understand the Scrum framework. So, what is the Scrum framework? Scrum framework was co-created by Jeff Sutherland and Ken Schaubert to develop software and deliver in an agile manner using the agile mindset and the agile values. They did a thorough observation of the rugby game and came up with some practices for Scrum. Let's try to understand that. So, Scrum, as I told you, is a framework. It is a methodology that kind of works on three basic principles of empiricism. That is like inspection, adaptation, and transparency. So these are three principles of empiricism followed by Scrum. And then Scrum is a framework that's all about practices like so dedicated roles. There are some artifacts, and then there are regular meetings. So it is a very disciplined framework. So any project that needs a delivery, if it's done in Scrum methodology, it is easier to deliver the output in an agile way. Okay, so Scrum is used to deliver even minimum viable projects. From the use case, whatever is the most important part that needs to be delivered to the client, they can be delivered in MVP using the Scrum framework. Okay, and Scrum is also used to deliver software in sprints or iterations, things of high business value. So when there's a lot of things at stake, when we want to deliver projects, we use Scrum methodology. Okay, and Scrum is also used for continuous improvement. Okay, so we learn from every sprint and we make things better. So that's where the continuous improvement comes in Scrum framework. Okay. So Scrum has got three roles. So what are these three roles? The first one is a product owner, and then is the Scrum Master, and then the development team. Product owner is one who works on the product backlog, the roadmap. He understands what the user needs. He comes and he works with the development team and the Scrum Master to build the software. He is the one who prioritizes the software delivery, what needs to be built. He is the one who comes and says, this is the most valuable software. Let's try to work and build this. And product owner also comes and reviews the demos. He is the person going to give you a lot of clarifications when the stories are being built with the development team. He's also part of this sprint planning meeting. Okay, now coming to the Scrum Master. Scrum Master is a person who ensures this framework is done successfully. The Scrum framework is followed by the entire team successfully. He ensures that the Scrum events are happening successfully. He schedules those calls, he facilitates those calls. He also ensures the product backlog, the artifacts are maintained properly, and he also ensures that the development team is working consistently towards the sprint goal. Scrum Master as such is not responsible for the delivery, but the development team is the one who is responsible for the delivery of the sprint goal. Okay, so Scrum Master is there to remove impediments. He is there to solve issues for roadblocks for you. He is there to help you understand what is Agile mindset, what is the Scrum framework. So that's the work of a Scrum Master. Then we have got the different artifacts. So what are the different artifacts in the Scrum framework? There are three important artifacts. First one is the product backlog. Second one is the sprint backlog. Third one is the product increment. What is the product backlog? Product backlog is the list of all the features that need to be built for the roadmap of the project. Okay, whatever has to be built. So that's like a never ending list that is being built. So it is primarily built by the product owner. Additions can be done on the development team and Scrum Master also based on the iterations that's happening, based on the learnings you learn on the project. So the primary person responsible for managing the product backlog is the product owner. From this product backlog, prioritized work comes into the sprint backlog. That is the second artifact. Okay, the sprint backlog is a list of few stories which the development team is going to work and deliver in the end of the sprint. The sprint backlog also has a sprint goal. Now, after the sprint backlog, we have got the product increment. At the end of the sprint, whatever is the shippable, potentially shippable software is built, right? That is called as a product increment. It is a sum of all the increments which have gone for the past iterations. The final, let's say before you run out 4 sprint demos. So the 5th sprint demo will have all these 4 items in the product, and the 5th one is getting added. So product increment is getting incremented every time it's been released. That's the product increment. Okay, I missed one of the roles, that was the development team. Okay, so development team comprises of the developers, testers, and the designers, or the UI guys who are working there. So these are people who work on the stories. They estimate the stories. They ask a lot of questions on the stories. They ask the product owner to refine the stories for them, and they build the working software. Okay, these are the people who actually build the software for us. Okay, now coming back to the ceremonies, Scrum has got 4 ceremonies: sprint planning, daily stand-up of Scrum, and then sprint review and sprint retrospective. Sprint planning. Sprint planning is a meeting for a 2-week sprint. You will have at least 4 hours sprint planning. A sprint planning is a meeting wherein you kind of understand what are the things you need to build. You decompose the requirements, you create the stories, you refine the stories, you add the acceptance criteria, you estimate the stories, and you ask all the questions and you groom the stories, have it ready to be built over the next 9 days or 10 days. Okay, so that's what happens in sprint planning meeting. Product owner, development team, and the Scrum Master are part of the sprint planning meeting. Then after the sprint planning meeting, we have got the daily stand-ups or the daily scrums. So this is the regular check with the team wherein we come and ask what we did yesterday, what do we plan to do today, and what are the roadblocks. Right, so this is the question we ask in this thing. So it's more of facilitation meeting. In this meeting, we don't come and start addressing issues. Okay, let's do the RCA. Let's kind of debug this issue. No, we don't do this. That's done separately. Okay, any impediments have to be called out to the Scrum Master. He'll try to resolve whatever he can. He'll try to connect the dots in the daily stand-ups. Then at the end of the sprint comes the 3rd ceremony. That is sprint demo, or also called a sprint review or iteration review. So this is the time when the team comes and demos what they have built in the last 8 to 9 days. Okay, this is the potentially shippable product or the software which the users are going to use it once it goes to production, right? So in this meeting, the users, the product owner, the Scrum Master, development, everybody comes, and the product owner and the users give feedback whether it's actually useful software or not. Okay, then finally you've got retrospective. Now after all these 10 days of work, now we want to adapt. We want to fix things that didn't go well. So we asked 3 questions in this meeting, the retrospective meeting, called as what went well, what could be improved, and what are the next step of actions. Right, so these things, and what are the actions for the next sprint, right? So there's a regular check. We regular intervals we check this to adapt to what has been done. So after inspection, adaptation has to become. So that's where these 3 principles of Scrum come: inspection, transparency, and adaptation. So transparency happens with the artifacts, product backlog, sprint backlog, and the product increment. On the sprint goal also is there, right? Then after that, you have got inspection. In that maybe 4 meetings: sprint planning, daily scrums, retrospective, and sprint demos. And then finally you have got adaptation. Is also you're taking the decision in the retrospective, what are you going to fix in future. And scrum sprints are run over a period of 2 to 4 weeks. So that's about, we build, we plan, we build, we design, we analyze, and we build the softwares, and we test them in the scrum sprints. That's about Scrum in a nutshell, a very, very brief. I've also recorded a detailed video on the Scrum frameworks called Scrum 101 or What is Scrum. If the link should be here, we can go and watch that. It's a detailed video of almost like 50 minutes. Now, I want to talk about the Scrum sprint execution. Scrum sprint execution. In front of your screen, you will be seeing a flow diagram wherein we start off with the product backlog maintained by the product owner, is in orange color. Then he filters this product backlog and a sprint backlog in the meeting, in the sprint planning meeting. He works with the developers and the Scrum Master, and then the sprint backlog is built. From the sprint backlog, the iteration goes for 10 days. If it's a 4-week sprint, it's a 4-week sprint, it goes for like 20 days, right? And during this duration, every day daily stand-up happens wherein we can inspecting and trying to take a course correction. Now, after that, at the end of the sprint, what happens is, now in the sprint, what's happening? We plan, we analyze, we develop, we test, and we review customers. We do show review to the customer. At the end of the sprint, we are giving you what? The product increment, right? So product increment is come, a demo is done, which again, you've got product owner coming in. And then we have got the users coming in, the Scrum Master and development team. With the team demos the product that has been built. Now we take feedback from them, and then after that, what happens? We have the retrospective. After retrospective, we figure out that something is missed, it's not done completely. We'll again put that back into the product backlog. So that's the entire flow of the sprint in Scrum. Similarly, I'll show the flow of sprints for Kanban and XP also. Just hang on this video. Now let's try to understand the XP framework, right? Extreme Programming Framework. The main goal of XP framework is to write code in a better way. That's the main goal, right? The difference between XP and Scrum is that Scrum is focused on delivering projects. XP is focused on ensuring that we write code in the best possible way so that it is scalable later. Okay. Now, XP, as I told you, primary focus is build great growth. So there's a mind map in front of you in our screen. You'll be able to understand things. So XP teams work in a very different way, right? XP teams work co-located, right? All the teammates are co-located. They are self-organized teams and they have an energized work environment. Self-organized, they understand what the work has to be done. They pick it up and start doing it. As I've told you earlier also, the goal of Agile is to have self-organized team and increase the collaboration. Now with collaboration, XP teams also have the greater collaboration and need to be more cohesive because here two people will be working on pair programming, seeing one piece of code.